Welcome in, everybody. We have an excellent debate scheduled for you this evening between Marte and Tyler, the average debate enjoyer. We're going to be moderated tonight by our guy, Mr. B. And wanted to just real quick shout out the couple super chats that we already got in. Thank you, Captain Willie Grimm. Says Tyler will be here shortly. He's putting his skirt on. Yeah, I'm not going to stand up and share that with you guys, by the way. And then Fuck a Button sent a $5 super chat as well and said, when in Rome, wait a second, is someone wearing a skirt? Thank you guys for the super chats to get us started off. We do have the goal set at a $2 minimum threshold. If anybody has any questions for the debaters, I think we'll have some time at the end to address those as well. Send those in via super chat. And just reading your chat, that's funny. Tyler. And so yeah, let's go ahead. I'm gonna get us started off. We'll bring the debaters and Mr. B in, and we'll get going. Oh wow, flipped you guys around. That's all right. I was expecting Marte to be on the left. Go ahead, Mr. B, and
no, you're good. I'm always on the right, so you got it right the first time. I appreciate that.
Okay, cool.
All right, everybody, we're having a long-form debate this time. We normally do fast debate on Fridays. Our debaters today are average debate enjoyer, also known as Tyler, and Marte Roya. Marte, you're gonna have to correct me on your last name because it fell asleep in my mouth.
So there's a store that sells shoes called Payless. Just throw an R in the beginning and you're straight.
Marte Realis. Gotcha. Thank you.
Perfect. There you go.
We got 10-minute openers on each side and an hour for the debate time. We may push it to half an hour if there's an extra half hour if there's still some meat on the bones. Maybe an extra half hour after that if it's feeling still spicy. But right now we're set at 10-minute openers. You guys know the rules that I've said, but you don't need them because you guys are at the intermediate level, not the beginner level. I know you guys will respect each other. All right. Whenever we're ready, we'll hop out and play Marte's opening video. And then after that, average debate enjoyer will do his.
All right. We'll get Marte started.
I think that the U.S. has always been a bit of an unreliable ally, shall we say.
An unreliable ally? How many billions and billions of dollars have we given you? How many wars have we fought for you? How many times have you attacked another country and we bailed you out? How many times have you had to blackmail our politicians so we had to do your bidding? How many soldiers did you send to Iraq to help American soldiers? Why did you attack the U.S. liberty? How come the only president that ever said no to you guys to getting a nuke and it was something you really, really wanted, well, that person was JFK. Well, what happened to him? Does any other country trust you? Would any other country trust you at this point? Not reliable. We're your most reliable. Because any time that you state you're going to make peace negotiations, you break it. You say your promised land 3,000 years ago, so you feel like you're justified in slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people in taking their land. Because you say that your God, which is a different God because our God is the Christian God, Jesus Christ. To say that we are not an ally is a straight up disrespect to the hundreds and thousands of soldiers that have died, women and men, for your country, tearing down our churches, closing our churches in Israel, and more. Because I don't know if you know this, all these wars we fought, Iran, Afghanistan, you name it, have put our country in trillions of dollars in debt. And if you look at our streets, our potholes, our education system, all of this has been a detriment to our country. Everybody in Israel gets free healthcare, free housing, free medical schooling, everything else because of American taxpayers. And if you believe we should keep funding Israel, even Netanyahu. The crazy part is $11 million from OF and sex work went to AIPAC. AIPAC spent $11 million on the election to unseat people who spoke out against Israel. It's crazy that one of the biggest means of running down society and degeneracy and opening gateways for sex work and also the sex trade is donating to political campaigns and funding. A legitimate alliance requires mutual benefit, sovereign respect, and strategic alignment between parties. The U.S.-Israel relationship does not meet the minimum conditions of a legitimate alliance. I wonder if anybody at AIPAC can tell me why a lot of these military soldiers had to die.
Jews are God's chosen people, and the Gentiles must learn their purpose in life is to fight and die for Israel.
Israel gets so much from the United States. It's a one-sided relationship. They get us to be their proxies in wars that they want against their enemy. They get our military assistance. They get our bombs. They get our technology. They get our tax dollars. There's no way in this debate that you can refute that it's demonstrably a one-sided relationship mostly.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
One thing that leaps out of your report is the use of dogs to rape male detainees. There's other evidence around this now as well. How solid and widespread is the evidence for that particular crime now?
Yes, actually, this is not the first time that we documented cases of dogs abusing, or trained dogs actually abusing or raping Palestinian detainees inside Israeli jails. In this report particularly, we documented several cases. He said that they took a group of detainees and me to the corridor between the sections and forced us to strip completely naked. The soldiers brought in several dogs. One of the dogs then raped me, penetrated my anus in a trained manner when I was being beaten. This continued for several minutes. I felt profoundly humiliated and violated. And this is something that also confirms that this is a systematic policy, because no army trains dogs on raping humans unless this is something that is accepted by the highest rank in the authority.
These are almost unimaginably horrific accounts. I also spoke to a former Israeli army intelligence officer who has done the work that Western journalists have not, and brought together and collated all of the evidence about the Israelis' use of dogs to rape Palestinian inmates. His name is Shael Ben Ephraim, and he spoke to us from California, where he now lives.
And so I looked into it, and he put me in touch with two guards who had worked there. And they told me about all the torture that had occurred in Sdet Teiman, but also some things that hadn't appeared in the media, and that played a very large role in my moving away from Zionism. I kept in touch with one of the two guards. I talked to another. I was introduced to another by the guard that I had talked to. I had seen the reports that dogs had been used to sexually assault inmates in Sdet Teiman. So I just asked them. They both confirmed it. One said that he'd seen dogs being used when there's several testimonies. I'm
particularly drawn to this subject because I reported this in my film Gaza for Al Jazeera's investigative unit. How much evidence is there now out there in the public domain about this?
Well, as far as I know, there's testimony from at least 20 people. And then I added the testimony of two guards.
Because we had that case again at Sdet Teiman where a rape was caught on video and it was exposed in Israeli media, wasn't it? Now, what's happened to the soldiers involved in that? As I understand it, the charges have been dropped, haven't they?
Yes, the charges were dropped. The only person who faced real consequences for that was Yifat Yerushalmi, the military attorney who leaked the video.
Is it true you can't wear a cross?
That is true.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if I went out there and did this, the hell going on? You ain't wearing it. If I do that, will I get beaten up?
Yeah, they will spit on you.
Yeah.
They will confront you.
No, you're kidding.
You can look up. There's videos of this.
Yeah, I've seen it.
What's so wrong about helping defend Israel from Iranian threats?
We've got debt. I mean, at least with NATO, there's the promise of a reciprocal arrangement. With Israel, it's completely one way. And they've drug us into wars. They've convinced us that Iran is just days away from a nuclear weapon, and they're perpetually that way. This is not our war. Israel, for instance, funds abortions publicly. I think a lot of Republicans would be aghast to know that we're giving $3.8 billion a year, every year, to a country that funds public abortions.
You know that kind of criticism doesn't sit well with fellow Republicans, at least in the House Republican Conference, that there are others who've accused you of all sorts of things regarding Israel, regarding the state of Israel, regarding the Israeli government, regarding Jewish Americans. Are you anti-Semitic?
They're trying to tell you that it's anti-Semitic for me to expose the fact that the Republican Jewish coalition has spent millions of dollars in this race, that a dual citizen, Miriam Adelson, who even Trump says is more loyal to Israel than the United States, has spent millions of dollars in this race. Those are mere facts. And it's
Okay,
really...
it's a yes or no. Are you anti-Semitic or not?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
I'm hell no anti-Semitic. But here's the danger that AIPAC runs. They've been too cute by half. They've tried to get Mike Johnson, and he's willingly done this, conflate in resolutions on the House floor that anti-Zionism equals anti-Semitism. Or even worse yet, that if you don't support Benjamin Netanyahu's war in Gaza, then you're anti-Semitic. That's absolutely false, and it does Jewish Americans a big disfavor to equate the two.
Sir, can we ask you America first or Israel first?
Israel first.
Israel first?
Yes.
Before America?
Sir, I say sir. America first or Israel first?
I'm not part of this.
You're not part of this? America first or Israel first?
Okay, keep going.
America first or Israel first? It's a hard one. Should be easy. America first or Israel first? I find, sir, America first or Israel first?
You can't answer America first or Israel first?
Sir, America first or Israel first? You can't answer that one. That's a tough one. Having a tough time answering that one. Got you stumped, stooped. Sir, America first or Israel first? Sir, America first or Israel first?
But somehow these people are allies. How are we this compromised? Let's now begin this debate.
One second. Sorry, let me get you guys pulled back up here.
Also want to say thank you, Mr. B and Tyler, for hosting this debate, and thank you for meeting me halfway, average debate enjoyer, before we begin. So,
absolutely.
All right. And with that, average debate enjoyer, you've got 10 minutes. You're muted.
I don't have a fun video. I'm sorry. I just got some words. So hopefully I don't keep you guys too bored because I'm not really the entertainer. I'm just the guy that, reads a lot, watches a lot. I just finished a couple of books recently about Israel in particular, but we're not here to debate Israel. We're here to debate all foreign intervention. Now, Israel's going to be a key part of that because not only are they our greatest ally, as you can see, but they have been a complete net benefit to the United States. We can just dive into that real quick before I get to my major point, because I got a lot of time, 10 minutes. So what we saw were a lot of tropes, a lot of leftism on that video. First off, starting out with the hoax that Israelis were training dogs to essay women and men in prisons. This comes from 14 anonymous members of Hamas, completely refuted by Israel because they released dozens of days worth of video footage to be investigated from that exact prison and found zero evidence to any of these claims. This is the same group that lies every single day. They've claimed genocide against them 5 times. When Al-Shifa Hospital at the beginning of the war, like the 3rd day, was hit by an IJF misfiring rocket, they said Israel intentionally shot that hospital and killed 500 civilians. It was just a complete lie. We can go through dozens and dozens of those, like the Witkoff massacre that was actually Hamas killing its own people, or when the ceasefire happened, the death to the collaborators movement, where Gazans were killed by the thousands by their own government. But again, we're not here to debate Israel. It's framed around that. It's this obsessed Israel brain thing that like 1% of voters vote on. All I see that as is the bleeding heart, anti-war leftist stance creeping in from a rhino influence. These are not Republicans. Republicans have been pro-war for 100 years. This is a left-wing stance on war. And I'm kind of in the center. I'm a center-left guy. This and policing or where me and the leftists disagree. This is why I call myself a moderate, because I side with the right on these things. This is leftism creeping in. And again, rhino, Republican in name only. I'll vote for Trump, but as soon as he doesn't do something I don't like, we saw Nick Fuentes on there who's now flat out endorsing Democrats. We saw Thomas Massey, the guy that just got kicked out of his seat on a Democrat network, getting interviewed by Democrats. This is the other side's stances. That's why they're so fucking happy. They have a couple token Republicans agreeing with them. They're voting against Israel. 42 senators voted to completely defund all weaponry from Israel. They're the ones repeating the tropes that we just saw in that video. But again, we're not here to debate Israel. That's just some Israel brain thing. We're here to debate all foreign intervention, all allies. Israel plays a part of that. So I have 4 pillars to this argument. The first pillar is economic. You can talk about the $3.3 billion we give Israel on average, the 1.6 we give Egypt on average, the 1.2 we give Jordan on average every single year for the last 40 years. That's $7-8 billion. Hell, let's look at all the money that we give to our allies in a yearly. It's about $90 to $100 billion. That's a lot of fucking money. Yeah, that could be spent elsewhere. But when you say that, you ignore the rest of the equation. You're cherry picking out one small thing, ignoring why we do that and what we get to benefit. What we have is global hegemony under the United States. Since this has happened, we've had 60 years of borders moving less than they ever have in human history. We have the least amount of war since World War II has ended, when the United States and 46 other nations signed a treaty to step up and do this. Because of that, we've seen global trade skyrocket. We've seen consumer confidence in the markets hitting their all-time high, global markets. In 2023, I think it was the record. Now, what this means is global confidence in world trade is I'm going to take millions of dollars worth of the shit that I own and put it on a fucking ship and ship it across the world where I can have no control over it. I trust this process to make sure I get my money back. And that's global trade. What that does is make price of goods cheaper across the board. In the United States, if you look since the 70s to today, you can see every single good except for 4 things that Democrats have completely over-regulated has dropped in price out of a percentage of your total and disposable income. In the 70s, we paid 9.2% of our disposable income on food. In 2017, when the study was conducted, it was 5.5%, and people were buying more food than ever. We had an obesity epidemic. That's how our trade system has worked. It's also worked to suppress enemies. So the economic benefit is that we have a maintained and free globalized trade. That brings in about $1 trillion a year. Now, import exports, if you tax those, that's about $200 billion, which is double what we pay all nations for intervention. Not just Israel, who gets $3.3 billion, mind you. $3 billion is what's being focused on with Israel. We bring in $200 billion from just import and export taxes. On top of that, those goods trickle down into our economy. They then become widgets and parts of other things, which lowers those prices as well and also makes them taxable again. I want to say imports touch about $1 to $1.5 trillion worth of taxes in a year, lowering the amount consumers spend, and it's all taxable back to the government. So the amount of tax money we're spending on foreign intervention pales in comparison, about 1 to 50 with what we bring in from keeping a peaceful, hegemonic world under United States order. The economic argument is a no-brainer. It's absolutely one-sided, and people make you have to ignore all the money that this global trade brings in. The next is it's a zero-sum game. We have 180-something nations in the world. They're not unlimited. If we're not out there pushing to go and make them on our side, our enemies are. We saw this with communism in the 20s and the 30s. When we were isolationist, communists had their fingers in South America. They had their fingers in Europe. They had their fingers in the Middle East. They were in Iran. They were in Afghanistan. They were in all these countries that everyone's like, oh, the U.S. went in and overthrew them and caused more problems. That's because the Soviets were there 30 years sooner, corrupting them. Now imagine if the Soviets had control of the 3 most important waterways in the area that Israel protects for us, the Strait of Hormuz and the 2 strips there. If they had control over that, they could literally have shut down our economy in the 80s when we were relying on foreign oil. They would have global control. That's why the fight in the Middle East exists. It's who has control over some of the most important waterways and the most important resource for humans on this planet. Something we were deeply reliant on until shale fracking happened in like 2008. Until that point, that's why the number one reason why we were there. And we still see even today, even when we're as insulated as we are, the Strait of Hormuz shutting down hurts our economy. We saw 3.8 inflation in April on the CPI report. So this is a very important region of the world. We need somebody there. Do we want to send U.S. boys to go die in another country? Or do we want to rent a fucking army for $3 billion a year and let them fight against their natural enemies on our behalf? It's fucking genius. The Trump's foreign policy has been genius. He's rented 2 armies to fight our worst enemies, and we're sitting back, we're fucking selling them weapons, and that's it. which comes to another point. That money we give these other nations for weapons and bases, about 80% of it comes back to our economy to buy weapons. They're buying our old stocks, and they also giving us all the advancements they made in war so that we can build newer, better weapons. We're keeping our arms fresh while they use our old shit. The third argument is going to be morally. Now, I bet this matters the least to a lot of people on here, but to me, it helps me sleep at night knowing that my country is Daniel Penny on the world stage. Instead of staring at their phone when a woman's getting sexually assaulted right next to them, saying, "It's not my business, I don't want to hurt myself," they step up like men are supposed to, and they get the job done. They protect the innocent, they protect the weak. Morally, I can sleep at night much, much better knowing that my country is the leader of world peace. What do I got left for time? I didn't start a timer.
You are at 1 minute 55.
Okay, then I'll just skip the fourth point. We'll go with those three and I'll close it off. At the end of the day, you can argue that certain things, we could completely nix Israel from this and say, okay, we'll give it all to Saudi Arabia, and that entire intro was completely out of pocket. Generally, the United States and the world is better off with a global hegemonic power. We can't trust anyone else to do it. We've seen how shitty the fucking UN is. We ain't taking calls from somebody that gets money from China. So at the end of the day, we're the best people for it. The world is better off because of it. The economic no-brainer of us keeping our trade protected is a net positive for our economy and our tax revenue that spending on military campaigns overseas doesn't even come close to. It's a no-brainer. And tonight we're going to probably have to focus a lot on Israel, but remember what I said here, because that's the argument.
Continuing the rest of your time? Okay.
Okay, I'd like to kind of intercede a little bit here. There was a kerfluffle that happened. So as I read this, I'm actually wrong about this. So Tyler, you had said America does not benefit with foreign intervention. Somehow during the back and forth, this changed to Israel, and I made my prompt Israel, and somewhere along the line, Mr. B, and that's where this happened. Like, if I would have known, like if it would have been America's and that benefit with foreign entities, I still would have pursued the debate. But I was like, for some reason, I believe that it was only Israel. That's why everything else is Israeli heavy, targeted towards that as the prompt. And even if you look on my channel, it only says Israel. Now, I would agree, Tyler. I'll even concede this, everything else. I'll even concede that, you know, anybody else, foreign aid, good, Nigeria, whoever else, except for Ukraine and Israel. Like, I'll stand on those 2 points, but I'll concede the rest. I'll even outright do that because that would actually go in my favor, meaning in my favor, not towards the debate, but in my belief system. Like, this is what I believe as a whole. But in totality, I truly thought that the prompt was, you know, allies with Israel. That's what I only
pivot.
Now,
if you want, I could pivot just to Israel. I might have to switch up don't hold my intro to, but I did the intro debate with Israel debate with Jake Farr. I already got notes and everything ready to go. I can just change my docs, so we're good.
I mean, that would be a nice olive branch from you, but I'm actually willing to concede the prompt here and say foreign intervention. I would actually agree, you know, with allies, but I'm hopefully against the Israel as an allied nation in Ukraine, hopefully against that. So I'm willing to argue that.
Yeah.
That's what.
Let's drop. I want a good debate. I'm not here to fucking win. I'm here to have a good conversation. So let's drop everything else I said and just focus on Israel and the Middle Eastern points I made.
So we're good at starting timer on an hour for Israel as the new debate.
If Tyler agrees to that, that's fine. That would actually be more than I would ever ask for. But yeah,
we're good. That's fine with me.
All right, then I'll start timer now, and you guys can go back and forth.
Okay, so Tyler, I mean, you've listed net benefits to Israel. And here's another thing, too, is Zionism is on its last leg. It only exists by the weight of its propaganda, and that propaganda has collapsed. If you look at everybody else with their polling as far as supporting Zionism, that's going down. Distrust is on the way up. And not to mention that AIPAC hasn't even registered as a foreign entity. That's crazy. We're buying politics. Look at Massey right now. The whole thing that's happening right now with the Crucible, them watching that, crazy. So it's like, anybody that ever speaks out against Israel, the crazy thing about this too, and I know I'm kind of layering this in, if you give me like 2 more seconds, the problem with this is a very scary conversation for content creators to have. Because I even know pro-Israel content creators who endorse Israel. They get shadow banned for months on end, even if they do that. Well, how's that free speech working for you? So if we're talking about that domestically, I'm speaking in a language where everybody else can understand. We can get to like the oil, the protection of borders, the inhumane atrocities that are accused. It's later. But right now, I want to focus on this portion of the debate where it's like the perspective of Americans. We don't support Israel. How do you like basically face this? How do you address that?
Oh, a couple. So you said a couple things there. So the first one, that Americans don't support Israel. There is a lot of polling data out right now that does back that, but I think that generally is more reflecting on, do you support Israel in the moment? If you start to dive into that issue polling, we saw two polls, one from YouGov and one from Yale Youth. Both of them were about Israel having the right to exist as a nation. Only 5 and 7% said they don't even have the right to exist. And about 50% said generally they support funding and backing of Israel. Some say too much. Some say we need to stop. We've done enough. Some say we need to give more. But generally about 50% of the country still says we need to fund it. About 30% generally says we don't. And about 20% are undecided. But AIPAC is not a foreign lobby. That's U.S. citizens forming a U.S. super PAC to lobby U.S. politicians for U.S. policy. This is an argument of the NRA controls our politicians. That's why they won't pass this gun legislation.
What's the acronym of AIPAC? Can you tell me what the acronym means?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, can you look it up and tell me what the acronym means? Because AIPAC stands for a certain number of words. What does that say?
American Lobbying Group advocating for pro-Israel policies.
No, read what it actually is. Don't read what somebody says it is. Can you read what it actually stands for?
Israel. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was the definite. You're right. American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
Okay. Did you know what AIPAC was before it became AIPAC? They rebranded themselves.
Yeah, I know that there was a coalition, or there was not a coalition of a bunch of pro-Jewish groups, and they came together.
Shit. Okay. So not Americans originally. If you look at the origin and the onset of its start, no, this isn't. All you're talking about is the occupation of Israel. And if we're talking about the occupation of Israel, that's inevitably what it is. They've just rebranded. So when you say the definition is like, okay, coercion can exist in definitions as well, too. That's all that's on display here.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it is still an American lobbying group of American citizens lobbying their politicians for a policy that they want. You have just as much right to say we shouldn't be allies with somebody as you have to say we should be allies with somebody. I think it's rather brilliant to hire this nation who's technologically above and beyond everybody around them and have them do the fighting in the region. You say Zionism's on the collapse, but what I saw is Israel got attacked by 7 fronts, and all we did was sell them weapons for like 99% of that conflict, and they clapped. 4 nations, two little groups that think they're nations, and then went to war with Iran and won all of those before we even stepped in to do Operation Midnight Hammer. They clapped, and Iran is 11 times the size of Israel.
Let's address your first thing, because we haven't even moved past it.
I need to pause you for 1 second. Marte, you are not streaming sound on your stream.
Give me 1 second. Hold on real quick.
It just came through.
It's through now?
Yeah, it connected. I don't know what the deal was.
Okay, yeah, my mic is. I'm fighting 2 adversaries here. I'm fighting my mic and I'm fighting AVG. So if you can donate a super chat so I can get off of EBT. By the way, it's a whole different argument. But anyways, back to this. Your first point of saying Americans should believe Israel should exist as a country. I mean, that's almost a non sequitur. What I'm referring to, and we have to throw that whole point out. What I'm referring to is the support of Israel, not if they should exist. Now, back to this, the topic and the prompt of the debate. The new one, because we're rebranding here. Speaking of rebranding, AIPAC, by the way, Americans do not support monetarily of Israel. Even Netanyahu said, no, I'd like to be at net zero. Well, why is that? Here's my speculation and belief. I'm going to offer some speculation. Maybe you can say it's an assumptive claim in a debate, but we're entertaining this conversation here. I believe that if the USA were to pull out, what Israel would do in this war that I don't think we should be in, I don't even think you believe that we should be in Iran. We're fighting for them. Israel would inevitably pull out and say, you know what, fuck, we don't got no help. We're going to pull out. And then for everybody else to say, well, maybe they'd go with China. Well, the problem with this is it's not whether or not Israel would co-opt an alliance with China. It's if China would have an alliance with Israel because China would not be Israel's lapdog. They would not bend over for Israel like we are. They would never let people infiltrate their Congress or buy seats in the House or do any of this stuff. So let me shut down that conversation with saying if we lead, then somebody else is going to ally with them. No, nobody else is going to be their footstool but us. That's the reality of the situation.
Well, I mean, we don't need to speculate on that. Bibi Flathouse told us why. If you watch the rest of the interview, he's saying that there's a second party in the United States where 42 of their senators voted to end all military aid, even defensive to Israel, and a very, very large and growing coalition within the party wants to completely boycott, divest, and sanction Israel. So he said he can't be reliant on them because the GOP is going to eventually be out of power, just like, Bibi's eventually going to be out of power too. And at that point, Israel can't rely on America anymore. He's calling us unreliable, the same way Ben Shapiro kind of was in that other quote. I disagree with that. I think Democrats are just putting on a show because they're not in power. They're trying to virtue signal to their base to get them out for the midterms. And as soon as they get back in power again, the same people are going to take over again. But that's why they say that. And Zionism.
You do agree with me that we are the reliable ones in this exchange. Can you tell me how it's not lopsided? Let's get to the heart of the matter here.
Yeah. Who's dying in these wars?
If you have an ally and you have a lopsided exchange where we are the host and they are the parasite, how would that not be like an example, or I would say hypothetical for what this situation is? Am I off base here, Tyler?
No, I mean, I get how you're framing it. You could see it that way. Absolutely. I think it's very transparent. But at the end of the day, they're the one fighting and dying in these wars. I hope to fill in the context for you to help you get past how you see it. I understand completely, though, how you get to that conclusion. At the end of the day, our army pays Israel $3.3 billion to oversee peace in a very volatile and very expensive region of the world. Again, 3 of the most important waterways in the world go through there. And we have a enemy of the United States who's been an enemy of the United States since the 1930s when communists infiltrated their parliament. Like, we cannot trust Iran and China with these. So we need to have allies in the region. With the coalition right now from the Abraham Accords, again, Trump's got an ingenious plan here. He's brought together all these Gulf nations. They're all fighting together for the first time after 20 years ago calling for the death of each other. They're now fighting together to remove Iran and make a coalition to make peace in that area. That, to me, is something we've never seen in our lifetime. And I brought up Zionism. You brought up Zionism earlier. That's why I brought up those polls. Zionism literally means that Israel should exist as a nation. So if you're saying Zionism's on its last leg or people don't like Zionism, that's what the actual meaning is the existence of them as a state post the UN.
I'm saying the propaganda of Zionism is on its last leg, and that's we're talking about the reference to your Zionism. It's crumbling as we speak. Now back to this: if Israel is supposed to be an ally that we support, let's talk about some deep diving incidents that happened right now. Like, if we're talking about this, I don't think that we should be supporting any atrocities that happen. Do you know what the Leahy Act is?
Enlighten me.
Okay, the Leahy Act, let me go ahead and look it up because I wrote down like a shit ton of notes for this debate because I knew that you were going to be a decent debater, not an average debater. Not blowing your head up, by the way. So the Leahy Act, if you're talking about this, we refer to the atrocities that happened that you said, well, there's no evidence of what happened. The New York Times broke out a bombshell. Like, let's even throw out the canine anal grape situations that have happened. Like, let's even throw that out. So this bombshell report that happened, Israel has been trying to suppress this, that what they're doing is cutting off babies' heads and things like that, whatever. But this that came out, the detainees being, somebody said, go get the carrot in Hebrew and put a carrot up a man's, bunghole and things like this. All this is happening. When we look at the Leahy Act, and let me go ahead and look it up in my Google real quick because I don't want to mischaracterize it. The Leahy Law is a U.S. statute prohibiting military assistance to foreign security forces credibly implicated with gross human rights violations. While the U.S. has provided billions in annual aid to Israel, successful administrators have faced intense scrutiny and pressure from lawmakers to apply the Leahy Act uniformly to Israel military accused of abuses. You know what's happened? We can't have our analysts go in. We can't even have media go in and investigate any of this. And then when we talked about our lawmakers passing the Leahy Act,
72 lawmakers voted against this because to 11, mind you, 72 to 11, because they didn't want to know what could be uncovered by this, the gross information that we would discover. And that's why, if you look at the Leahy Act, if we found out really what's going on and there wasn't Israeli suppression, we would not, full stop, not be supporting Israel at all with armament or anything financially. This is crazy.
Well, generally, a lot of these things that are rumors have to get verified first. So what happens is an investigation. What you have are members of Hamas who are in Israeli prisons because they went into Israel and attacked civilians intentionally, killing hundreds of people, essaying women, killing them right there, children as well. These are the people that are making these complaints from Hamas prison or from Israeli prisons right now. That's who we're taking at face value.
No. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, so I mean, again, at the end of the day, I was going to just say, let's even grant all of those things are happening to some degree, because you didn't mention any like the real crazy things like the Witkoff massacre or anything like that. So let's grant all those things are happening. When Israelis do bad things, the IDF members, West Bank settlers, prison guards, we've seen time and time again, there's hundreds of examples where the Israeli government actually holds them accountable, whereas the people that are fighting, they can't get too extreme. There was a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old baby that they kidnapped with the mother. The mother they essayed dozens of times and then strangled her to death, and then strangled both children to death, then paraded their corpses through the streets of Gaza with cheering crowds saying, "Oh, look at that dead 4-year-old." There's yeah, I'm just
that actually makes my argument. Here's how that here's how that makes my argument. Cool. We're not supporting Hamas. We're not supporting also Israel either. You see how consistent across the board that is? Now, let me ask you a question real quick. Tyler, do you believe Israel and the United States have shared values?
Generally, yeah, secular nations founded on ideals.
Okay, if Israel is such a great ally that shares our values and deserves billions of U.S. aid, so how can you explain the repeated detainee testimonies still? Because you granted that already. Of IDF soldiers and SDE tie-ins stripping male detainees naked, restraining them, deliberately anally raping them while soldiers watched, laughed, and filmed. An Israeli analyst spoke to and this is an Israeli analyst, not Hamas or anybody else, even confirmed the awareness of them being abused this way. Would we fund an ally with any other country doing this? Like, let's say if it happened to any other ally, does this create a massive moral paradox for the shared values argument for you? I'd say it does.
I don't think so, because you should take a look at some of the people we've been allies with over the last 100 years. Saudi Arabia is significantly worse. This is about global hegemony. This is about our economic interests, not the moral stance of going into every sovereign nation and fixing them. Like, I don't want nation building. I don't want to go in there and tell them you need to do X, Y, and Z and adhere to all of our standards. I want them to go and fight wars for us.
Hold on. So would you hold the U.S. to, I would say, humane rights violation standards? Would you hold us to a standard like that?
Absolutely. We're a different nation.
Then why not? No, hold on. If we're one body, one Christ, which is false, by the way, with Israel, how can you then say that we're going to hold them to the same standard? We have shared values. When you say, no, you obfuscate and say, no, it doesn't matter what Israel does, even though we're allies, but I'll hold the U.S. to these standards of not raping our detainees and stuff. But Israel, they get a free unlimited pass and a free blank check unconditionally. How do you reconcile this still? That's crazy to me.
I don't. They definitely do a lot better than most nations. So at the end of the day, if we held everyone to our standards, we'd have no allies, because America is not only the best, but the greatest country the world's ever seen, the richest, the most prosperous, and the most moral, with the shining city on the hill. Israel is never going to be that. No country we ally with is ever going to be that. If we said, hey, you can't be allies with us if you don't have a free speech law, we'd have no allies, because we're the only people that have free speech instantiated into our Constitution. And, so nobody is ever going to be able to match us. So we have to make compromises for the sake of geopolitical hegemony. So yes, there are some bad things that I don't like that Israel does and endorses. Most of the things are individuals doing bad things that their government eventually punishes. A lot of times it's bullshit too. There's a video of a Israeli essaying somebody behind shields. And we've known that's fake since 2024, but it was actually in your intro video. The leftist guy that was taught, the British leftist guy, brought it up. That video has been known fake since 2024. The woman that leaked it, who was part of the IDF, admitted she knew it was fake about 6 months after she leaked it. So
hold on. Well, the problem with this is like, yeah, you know what? I'll even grant this. So here's the problem with this quandary that we're presented with. I think that if we are going to war for Israel, You know, you're saying, well, their soldiers are dying in mass, not in Iraq, not in Afghanistan. They don't ever do that. But in matter of fact, Netanyahu's been caught saying this. He'll say, well, one American or one Jewish life is worth 1,000 Jewish lives. That's insane to make statements like that. Netanyahu he's not even Jewish himself. I don't know if you know this. He's Polish. The crazy thing about this is he's repeatedly made statements that are America first. And then when you talk about all these senators, you know, on their statements and everything, they're Israel first, not America first. We have an occupation that's going on in America right now. And that's the problem. We have a proxy state running through our government financially, and they're making these decisions. And when you say free speech, because you did bring this up, no, we have free speech. No, talk about you hate Israel on your channel or anything like that. See if you don't get shadow banned. Matter of fact, you can say I don't like Israel, but they'll say you're being anti-Semitic. No, that's not true. I can hate Israel's policies. I can hate their humane rights violations that they're doing, but I'm anti-Semitic for doing this. In the inverse, if I bastardize America on a channel, oh, free speech. Yes, you're right about that. If I say I hate Trump and say every dastardly thing about him, nothing happens to my channel. But the moment you bring up Israel or anything else they're doing, humane violations or anything else, or send the press to their country, speech is shut down indefinitely to a point to where it's like, we'll see. Matter of fact, there's a foundation, and I know I'm running on a little bit of a tangent real quick. I'll close it up real quick. There's a foundation, an Israel Education Fund, which really isn't an education fund. What it really is a program to send senators to Israel so they can parade them around in a circle, say, look how nice we are, and then send them back with propaganda so that way they can further infiltrate our government's pockets in elections, which is crazy.
All right, so there's a couple points there. We never went to war with Israel or for Israel. We have never actually done that. Taking Rubio's half a sentence out of context doesn't mean we actually did that.
What's Iran?
That's Rubio's half sentence out of context. What Rubio was saying is the timing of our attack was because we were coordinating with Israel. Not that we weren't planning on doing it. Not that we didn't have the military plans in the books for 6 months, something he also said in that same speech. We knew we were going to do it. We were coordinating with our ally. Israel said, we're ready to go, so we went.
But Tyler, hold on. We have to talk about the elephant in the room right now. When you say we've never went to war for Israel, if Israel didn't exist, we'd be going to war with Iran?
If Israel didn't exist, we need another ally in the region. I don't think we'd be at war with Iran right now.
Can you answer the question? If Israel didn't say, hey, we need to fight them, would we be fighting Iran?
Well, that's a big question because we'd have to go back to the 1940s and talk about how geopolitics would have gone if Israel didn't exist. But at the end of the day, I think Iran would still be our enemy. Yes, because they were infiltrated by communism decades before the United States even stepped foot there. If we didn't go into Iran, they would be a full-on communist state right now. Yes.
Okay. Let's say that they would be a full-on communist state. Would we be going to war with them if Israel didn't say, hey, we need you guys here to fight and help us out? Would we be going to war with Iran? Still the same question.
I think Israel would have gone to war with Iran either way if the United States wasn't there.
I don't care about Israel. Would we be going to war?
I mean, no, we wouldn't be going to war if Trump wasn't in office.
I just debunked your whole claim of we've never went to war for Israel.
I was talking before. I said before Iran, we have never went to war for Israel or have never fought a war with Israel. So I was talking about every other war, Iraq, Afghanistan, and all the other Kuwait and all the things we did in the Middle East prior. None of those were for Israel. Even at the time, Bibi Netanyahu was coming to our Congress and saying, Iran is the real enemy. Don't go into Iraq. And we still went into Iraq because we were going after human rights violations and our intel agencies made a massive.
Wait, hold on. This is a problem, though. The inconsistency in your argument, let me point it out real quick if you grab me like 10 seconds. You're saying we're going into Iran for the human rights violations, but then when I bring up the human rights violations by Israel, I don't care about that. You say, I don't care about that, but I care about the other. This is a ridiculous position to take, Tyler, by the way.
I don't think equating gassing tens of thousands of people is the same as unverified rumors of individuals doing SA that are being punished by their government. That's a really false equivalency. That's like saying a terror attack on Israel is the same as Israel going in and fighting a war against Hamas. These are just false equivalencies that are ignoring the fact that one of them is abiding by rules and one of them is doing whatever they want.
But do you understand in your argumentation, you're saying, and we're making let me make a generality statement because that's what you made. You said, I'm not going into Iran Well, one of the reasons why is because we need to stop this human rights violations that they're doing. Well, generally speaking, you would say, well, they're individual cases. What? There's still human rights violations no matter what. We should hold them to the same account. And then what you do with your inconsistent argumentation is you say, no, I wouldn't like it if we do human rights violations, but I don't care about what Israel does. What you're doing right now is what congressmen do with AIPAC money in their pocket and they'll obfuscate and say, you know, I don't care what happens as long as we support Israel first and America last. That's all this rhetoric leads to, Tyler.
You're leaving out a really big part of my argument in that these are individuals in Israel that their own government often goes after. Israel put dozens of West Bank settlers in jail for decades because they attacked Palestinians and tried to seize their land. They put IDF members in jail. And there was an example I always bring up from the war that Reuters had a camera on top of a hospital. Israel told a plane to go over and drop a small munition on that camera and destroy it. A tank that was close heard that and thought that they were talking to the tank, fired 2 rounds into the hospital. Complete mistake. Didn't kill anybody, just injured a couple of people. Nobody died from this. That person was kicked out of the army and charged with criminal acts. That's what Israel does when you go too far. They actually come down on you. So yes, as a nation, if they're not systemically endorsing this like the rest are, they are different.
The problem with this is, and here's the major problem that I'm going to get at, like Israel would do nothing to stop our infiltration of Muslims with America. They would use Islam as a broom to sweep us off the map and use Islam as a proxy to help America kind of water down their politics, like Imam Dame in New York, and I can go on. They're not actually allies with Muslims, but what they'll do is they'll allow a little bit of Muslim infiltration in America, not do anything to stop that, which that's an ongoing war with immigration that we have right now. Not do anything, but when it comes to them doing that, this is the case. I'm not making a case whether or not Israelis great more people than Hamas or anything like that. I'm just saying a human rights violation is a violation. If we're going to be consistent in this debate, we need to understand that they are not our allies. And I would say as a net benefit, no. Matter of fact, you've even said and conceded this whole debate by saying, no, we're not allies, and it's a lopsided deal that we have right now. Matter of fact, I'll even ask you a question right now. What's your definition of what an ally is, Tyler?
Well, they are definitely our allies. An ally is somebody that another nation that has mutual sovereignty stances and mutual interests on the world stage and work together to advance those interests. And that's exactly what we do with Israel. They are fantastic allies. Israel coming after us, this like you said, they come after channels, but then I look and the second largest Twitch streamer in the country is Hassan Piker, who literally plays terrorist propaganda and lies about Israel daily and makes millions of dollars a year. He's on the New York Times. You said Bibi is somehow working with Mandami to water down the United States, but
I never said that. Never said that.
You said that Israel is happy to push Muslims into our country to destroy
our country.
I never said that
either. I never said that either.
I'm going to need that point reclarified, but I want to get to one more first. The Israeli money.
Yeah.
So if you take all the Jewish lobbies that are all American citizens donating to their own political system like AIPAC, and you multiply those by 20, that still doesn't even match how much money Qatar's government alone has put into our government for anti-Israel interests. College campuses, news media, and our government officials are all paid. Qatar put in $20 billion over 15 years. Israel, the most they've ever put into a single election cycle is like 80 Israel-friendly PACs. The most they've ever put into an election cycle is about 80 to 100 million. I want to say it was in 2024, it was like 110 million or something like that. It pales into comparison. They donate $2 billion a year. The anti-Israel money, if it was about corruption, the anti-Israel money is where you go because it's 20 to 1. Those are the people with the fucking oil and tiny countries that are just dictatorially run. So they have all this money to spend in our politics. If it was about corruption, they'd be on the other side.
So here's the crazy part about that. That actually makes my argument, and I'll describe why, and then I'll clarify my previous point that I made. The reason why that makes my point is because, like you say, Qatar, and you're bringing up their name is in this conversation, this debate. Like, I don't hear Qatar's name in any war or any, I would say sending boots on the ground or doing any of this other stuff. Maybe they're on the side. But right now we're talking about who is detrimental to our nation. The crazy part about this is that actually makes the argument even more insane that we're choosing somebody with less benefit to go on and is more detrimental than Qatar. That's crazy. Let me get back to clarifying my previous point too. My previous point I was saying is, they will omit things. Like if you have a debate and you're omitting something by not saying the truth, it's still a lie regardless. What I'm saying is Israel will allow the Muslim invasion to come by not aiding the stopping of this, by not stopping any of this. If Muslims and Islam is one of their great enemies, they're not doing anything else. Matter of fact, inaction is still action. By staying still, not doing shit, and letting our soldiers die in a war for them, that's crazy. So, but if what you don't do is a form of allowance, that's my whole point. Just to clarify that for you.
Qatar in particular, Qatar is spent, again, $2 billion a year in anti-Israel lobbying. They go to college campuses. They put in that Middle Eastern studies wing with some former fucking member of Al-Qaeda that comes over and teaches kids to hate America and that Iran is nationally good. But they funded hundreds of millions of dollars a year to Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, backed Iranian efforts. They funded the overthrow of Syria that just happened last year. Qatar is a major actor on the world stage. So just saying, I don't know much about them, you're missing the fact that a nation that spends 20 times.
I didn't say I don't know much about them.
Yeah,
I never said that.
They spend 20 times what all Israel backed PACs and Israeli citizens and everything, all the Israel spending packed together. Qatar spends 20 times that a year on anti-Israel lobbying. Like if it was about money and corruption, why would they not be on the other side?
That's the weird part about this is we're choosing something that's more detrimental to us. That's the point that I'm making, which actually supports my point about how detrimental this is. We're choosing that, which is really weird. But here's the thing, though. I want to ask you a question because you talked about corruption. Let's get down to this, speculation about corruption. Are you familiar with the 1954 Lavon affair? Shit. Okay, here we go. I'm going to ask you a question real quick. The Lavon affair, and this is what Israel does. Whenever they get backed into a corner, false flag shit happens. And I can demonstrate why this happens. Because of our support for Israel being at an all-time low, nearing an all-time low, not if Israel exists, it being in some poll or something like that, which has nothing to do with our support of finances towards Israel, which I said Netanyahu even agrees we shouldn't take any more money from the United States. Going back to this, if Israel is such a great ally to the United States, why has it never recruited? Matter of fact, let me rephrase this real quick because I have a couple questions that I wrote down. If Israel, in the 1954 Lavon affair, recruited agents disguised as Egyptians to bomb American and British civilian targets in Egypt to create a false flag event explicitly to sabotage Western nations with Egypt to manipulate US UK policy, how can it still be considered a reliable, trustworthy ally to the United States rather than a nation willing to commit terrorism against its own allies when it suits its American interests? Because that's a false flag event. I didn't even bring up the US liberty yet, which is another crazy thing, which we don't have to go down because I'm pretty sure you prepared for that. But the Lavon affair, can you address that?
I am reading about it right now. I know that the USS Liberty was Israel in like the 1960s or the 1950s, hit a U.S. ship. Even the captain of the ship at the time said they did it on mistake. They said they did it on mistake. They didn't have the great technology to have instant transmission in the 60s. The pilot said they didn't know. They said flying fake flags was very common to do, and the flag's this big on top of a massive ship. So I think that was well explained.
I said I wasn't going to bring up the U.S. I said I wouldn't want to draw on the U.S. Liberty. By the way, when people asked for help on the ship, they said, no, we're not going to send you help because they didn't want to make Israel look bad and embarrass them. But let's get past the U.S. Liberty because that's not what I brought up. I addressed the Lavon affair. Can you address that?
Yeah, so this looks like it was a covert operation inside of Egypt where Israel gave a bunch of Egyptian Jews arms and bombs to attack civilian-owned targets owned by America, British, and Egypt, as well as a bunch of infrastructure inside of Egypt. The attacks were specifically, and they were going to blame them on the Muslim Brotherhood and communists in order to, it's not good. Not a fan.
So that's my question, though, Tyler, is like if Israel got caught, they literally got caught doing a false flag attack on the United States and UK to influence UK-US interests. How do we justify this with having us as an ally? How does this make a relationship when it suits their own interest? How are we allies with them?
Because it suits our interests as well.
Right, it suits our interest, but how does it suit our interest? when they could stab us in the back, create false flag attacks. And that's one thing I'm afraid of. Generally, I live in some amount of fear knowing that because Israeli interest is down and support for Israel, they act pretty squirrely and crazy when they get backed into a corner and feel like nobody's supporting them. I fear, and Lord have mercy if this ever happens on American soil, I fear that a false flag attack may happen. Again, because they've done it before, and you've even conceded that. There's been so much documented proof on this. How can we ever trust Israel after that as well, too? And that's only one incident.
Yeah, well, Israel has since apologized for it, said it was a previous leader. If anybody was in government at the time, the 1954 government was there today, maybe you could say that. But that's like saying, like, U.S. did bad things in the past, so now U.S. is born and evil, and the stain can't come out no matter who's in power, what changes have happened, even if they've made up for it. It's the 1618 Project argument of this country is bad because they did a bad thing one time in the past. It's again, I don't buy it. I look at them today. I see that it's a great benefit for us to be allies with them. They protect a very vital region of the world. They do it for very cheap, and we don't see U.S. boots on the ground as a result for the most part.
Well, Israel has a pattern. Can we admit that if it happens twice, thrice, even 4 times, it's a pattern? With the USS Liberty, they've said, oh, my bad, we're sorry. It's the first basically bombing on the U.S. soldiers or anybody else in which we've never retaliated. And not to mention this, but everybody else was given a muzzle and signed NDAs to not speak about this. If this was such a lowbrow thing that happened, it wasn't that significant. Oh, it's something that happened. Why then sign NDAs, shut soldiers up? People on their deathbed are making confessions about this. And then back to the Lafon affair, another thing happened. We can go on. There's a pattern of history with Israel stabbing us in the back. And then not to mention this, but buying seats in Congress, which is crazy. They should be able to, and Massey was running. He was basically saying, we need these people to register as a foreign entity. Refusing to do so. They're not going to, and I guarantee they're not going to. There's a reason why they don't want Massey in power right now in the seat, and the reason why is because they're going to fight tooth and nail because he brought up the Epstein files, he brought up everything else, and it's like, of course, Israel will be anti this. Matter of fact, the JFK, whenever that the files in the JFK were going to be released, all that shit pointed to Israel, and they were like, nope, can't release the rest of this, and it's like, that's crazy. Look, I'm offering a lot of speculation on the table here, Tyler, but here's one thing that's a consensus. It's a lopsided deal. They are not our allies. They're a flea on a dog's back, siphoning everything else as us, the host. That's a crazy dilemma that we're dealing with right here in this debate alone.
Again, I like 4 or 5 bad examples over 80 years of a democratic country who has ever-changing leadership, ever-changing population, who has apologized and tried to make up for some of these mistakes that happened 80 years ago. Like, I don't see it as a compelling argument as to why our geopolitical ally, who's providing us a vital service, making $3.3 billion, 1% of their own GDP, or 1% of their yearly national budget, which is like 0.001% of our national budget. We're giving them that, and they're going and they're destroying the enemies of America. I just want to point out here before we get, I do want to address your points, but I just want to point out here how vital it is for America that Iran is in the state it is. What happened in the first war, the 12-day war, Israel blew up all of their air defense, most of their air forces, most of their navy. They went back in and finished it the second time. About 70% of their long-range missile launchers have been destroyed. Even with the New York Times story that came out about 70% of their rockets still existing, the launchers are the important part. They can't shoot those bitches off anymore. They're destroying all the facilities for manufacturing these things and the oil facilities. So China, their number one buyer of oil, now has to buy more expensive oil elsewhere on the market. And Russia, the number one recipient of their drone technology and their weaponry, now has to go elsewhere for these things or buy them. We have hurt their allies on the world stage without ever touching these nuclear armed countries by going after them. This is a geopolitical win across the board. I know you don't like Ukraine. You want that war over. The best way to end that war is to keep hurting Russia, kicking them right in the dick until they stop invading Ukraine, because that's how it started. So now getting more to your point here, Israel, again, is our ally. These anecdotes don't tell this full story, and they don't make up for the fact that our global hegemony brings in significantly more money than we're paying them. Their boys are dying. The IDF has seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deaths in these wars with enemies that also want us dead. They called us the Great Satan long before they wanted to blow up Israel. Iran did, because we intervened in their communist government in the 1940s. Yes, that's when it started. The communists went in there in the 30s. After that, It went into the 50s where we went in and replaced the leader with his son. After the son was overthrown by the mullahs is when they started saying death to America. I did fuck that up, you're right. So that's when they started saying death to America, but it's not when they started hating us. They started hating us when we went in there and overthrew the communist government that was being planted in. Their leader wasn't a communist, a majority of their parliament was. They were in the middle of nationalizing their healthcare industry, nationalizing their oil, and saying that they were going to embargo the United States. So it's a pretty big reason why we actually went in and fought the communism there. But we need somebody to oversee that region of the world. There's no better actor. Who would you say would be a better actor to make sure those three waterways are safe for us? Who is a more humane actor in that region?
So let me ask you a question real quick. Like you asked the question, I hate answering questions with questions right now. Remember the false flag event that supposedly was going to the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Remember that happened?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you would call an anecdote, right? You would call that an anecdote, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that anecdote, what was Vietnam's response to this anecdote? Like, that's major. So when you say you're minimalizing what you call an anecdote, if they're going to do this with the Lavon affair and influence UK-United relations, and this happened to be successful, I don't even think we'd be in the same places in America. So that's a big thing that you're missing right now. And when we talk about this, let's go on to the corruption that we have. Spying and betrayal that we have right now. If Israel is such a reliable, trustworthy American ally, why did they run one of the most damaging espionage operations against the U.S. in history? Jonathan Pollard stealing thousands of classified documents and then treating him as a national hero upon his release, while U.S. officials called it a profound betrayal that harmed our security. Once again, how do you justify this because you couldn't justify the Lavon affair?
I mean, I'm not justifying it. There's definitely bad actions that have been taken. They're building nukes for their own country. They did it in a way that wasn't sanctioned by the world government with the agreement. I think it was a shady move. I understand why they did it. I don't endorse it. I don't like it. But that, to me, is not disqualifying of having them as our keeper of that very important region of the world. And I see nobody better fit for the job.
I normally don't pay attention to chats, but when I see Putin is worse, yeah, we're not funding Germany or Russia, by the way. That's the big difference. But back to this, you understand, like there's a consistent history, a pattern of betrayal, stabbing in the back, false flag attacks, and everything else. If any other nation had done this to Americans, we, for some reason, we act as if they're the devil, Satan on earth. But when Israel does this, they get a free, unconditional blank check. Why is this, Tyler? Can you answer that? That's the question of the hour, actually.
Yeah. I think I already have a few times. I think it's because it's anecdote and it doesn't really take away from the bigger picture that I've been saying over and over. Israelis left wing makes the exact argument you make, but in reverse. They say that Bibi is Trump's bitch. America has undermined the United States several times because they wanted to go and continue fighting Iran. All right, so the first war in Lebanon in 2000.
That's a crazy statement. Like, I would think that they're something like that. If they would say Bibi is Trump's bitch, if you think about it, it's really inverted, because if we were to say screw F America or do any of this other stuff, nothing would fucking happen. But we say anything here and we ask congressmen to say, hey, are you America first or Israel first? They won't even talk about this. Matter of fact, when you talk about the speech, this goes back to that. It's inverted. Like, we can talk shit about U.S. soil. America's our president. Oh, but Netanyahu, Israel, don't say that. Your YouTube channel might be in jeopardy of being taken down, demonetized, everything else like that. No, it's actually the opposite. So when they make statements like Netanyahu's Trump's bitch, like, I understand people make shit up all the time to try to say, hey, I'm a woman, to get into a man's restroom. It's no different from this. We have to look.
I got a bunch of examples. So there was the 2006 Lebanon War.
Yes.
There was the 2006 Lebanon War that existed for 34 days. The reason why that ended is because George Bush sent Condoleezza Rice over and said, we're losing public support, end this right now. Israel did not want to end that. The 12-day Iran War, Iran was supposed to get hit for 2 months straight. America said we're getting bad poll numbers. Trump told them to end it now. They ended it immediately then. Under the Biden administration, if we saw Kamala Harris going through the maps of Rafah. We saw the Biden administration withholding weapons if Israel didn't do what they say. Israel adhered to their demands every time. Tony Blinken went over to Israel 13 times in 4 years, well, about 2.5 years, because that's when the war started, to oversee food aid going to Gaza. Israel worked with the United States at their stupid demand to build that stupid pier that cost $500 billion that never got used a single time to deliver food aid to Gaza. They didn't want to do any of that shit. They worked with the U.S. because the U.S. said, either you do this or we're cutting that fucking money off. They are our bitch. This idea
that wouldn't be my argument, though. But that's the thing, though, is like, I don't care about Hamas. I don't care about Israel. The thing is, my totality of my argument is saying that we should not be funding them. Even Netanyahu agrees that we shouldn't be funding them. That's why I asked for your definition to begin this debate. What is an ally to you? Which never got answered, by the way. So an ally, okay, can you tell me and refresh my memory on what an ally is? Give me Tyler's definition.
An ally is another sovereign nation that shares either geopolitical or what's the other word? What is the word they used at the time? It was geopolitical, or I think it's something to do with moral frameworks.
They don't share that or the other one. Can you name something that we actually do share?
They do share that with both of those with us, absolutely. And
wait, hold on.
Enhance those mutual interests through trade, barter, and allyship.
When you said earlier in the debate, you said, yeah, I care that we're not doing human rights violations on our soil or our soldiers. That's fine, but you don't hold the same standard, which is a different shared value. That exposed that in this debate. And then when I talked about the Gulf of Tonkin, you said, yeah, that's an anecdote. That caused a major ruckus, right? And then we talked about these things. You brush them off as anecdotes and really influencing USA-UK relations through false flag events. What you're doing is you're minimizing this once again. I'm bringing this back up again just to reiterate a point, is that there's this consistent mantra. There's a reason why propaganda towards Zionism is at an all-time lows, because we're seeing through the bullshit. We now have technology. We have phones right now at our disposal. I have my notes, by the way. We have phones that we can see now. There's cameras everywhere, and we're not inept as we used to be, right? As a nation, we see everything. We have more information than usual. People are slipping up and leaking things more. So now it's like, because we're wise to this and privy to this, there's a reason why there's a general consensus against Israel. And the reason why is because I've shown you a pattern throughout this debate of bad actors and things that have happened and us being drug into wars that we have no business being in. Matter of fact, I don't support the Iranian war. I didn't vote for Trump to be in this war, but I did vote for Border Patrol, Christian nationalism to be more leaning towards in this nation politically wise and everything else. But it's like, I can understand that. What I don't understand is the support of Israel being at an all-time low. Nobody supports them here. I would say nobody. It's not an absolute claim, but the majority don't do this. And then when you think about this, now people are emboldened now. They're speaking more against Israel, starting to fight this. If you see this, there's a resurgence happening right now of everybody J-spurging. You see what the quote is, J-spurging, this label. Now, all of a sudden, people are feeling more comfortable doing this because we didn't. We were shut up. We were muzzled from speaking against Israel on platforms and everywhere else. So nationally, we're getting this general consensus to where it's like, okay, we're being wise to the game now. Now we understand that there's an Israeli occupation here happening in the United States through our election process, through money. And I understand. We could throw that out. I can't even concede that. Where there's so much influence of Israeli influence where it's like, this is not good. We have soldiers coming back with amputees and things like this for a war where it's like, why did we even go there? That was to help them out. Meanwhile, our streets are crumbling. We have potholes. Our education little system is shit. Meanwhile, they got free healthcare, free education, everything else from our tax dollars. Why are we subsidizing a nation where we're getting a lopsided to this is what's one thing that you agreed with, to your agreement that it's so lopsided? I'm like, that's not an ally. So my definition of an ally is a mutual benefit to where it's like, there's a reciprocation that happens. That's not happening here. You've even agreed to that. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a bit there. I got three things to address.
Go ahead.
So anti-Israel propaganda mostly comes from the left wing in the United States. I look at polling damn near every day, 90 to 95% of people. So the Republican Party in 2024 was larger than the Democratic Party for the first time in 100 years. It's growing as a party. 67%, the highest amount of people in the Republican Party to identify as MAGA happened just a few months ago. So Trump's got the largest Republican Party we've seen in a while, and it's the most allied with him. If you ask Republicans damn near every poll, 90 to 95% of them agree with Trump's policies in the Middle East. What you're seeing is a massive drop in Democrat approval with actions in the Middle East and over Israel. Because this is a left-wing argument, because this is the exact argument 42 Democratic senators and about 150 Democrat House members are making about Israel, that's where we see the plummeting. That's
how
why
is this a
Israel
left-wing
lost
argument? Can you explain how this is a left-wing argument?
Yes, because it's based about group oppression and bad actions against Israel. Israel's been doing bad things. So we need to punish their entire nation because of the individual actions. So you brought up the double standards point again that I thought
We're being punished. It's the opposite. We're being punished for supporting them. You've even said it's lopsided. It's to our detriment. Like we're spending billions of dollars. Hold on. So if you agree, do you agree that with Netanyahu himself as a prime minister, that they should stop accepting money from U.S. For military armaments or anything like that? Do you agree with him saying that?
I absolutely agree with it. It is the same reason why Republicans refuse to take. Yeah, but you're misframing why he's doing that. I've already explained this before. It's the same reason why Republicans would
they want to be a superpower. That's why they want to be an independent superpower. That's really why they're doing it.
That's mind reading. I'm going to go with the actual reason that they said, and the actual reason why Republicans said is that at the end of the day, if you take this money from the federal government, as Republican states refused Medicare money from Obamacare for the same exact reason, it comes with conditions, it comes with strings. That money isn't just a blank check for Israel to do whatever it wants. It has extreme conditions on it. I could go through every single one of them and tell you what they are because I have all that legislation in front of me. But that comes with conditions. And when the Democrats take office, those conditions get significantly more strict. We saw Biden threatening to withhold all sorts of weapons, 1,000-pound bombs and etc. if Israel didn't do X, Y, and Z specific actions that he wanted. They fell for this lie that there was this starvation in going on in Gaza. 20,000 people, the U.S. said, were going to die from it. Less than 200 people have died of starvation in 2.5 years. It was a lie.
That's the problem here is, though, when you talk about people dying from starvation, it's actually worse than that. It's famine, they're calling it now. So when you're saying we're going to cut off supplies to a certain subset of people, cut off baby heads and do all this other stuff, it's like, yeah, you can starve a whole nation. Yeah, you're going to get some deaths from this, but in totality, not everybody's going to die from being starved and famine, forced famine. Yeah, I would agree with that. That makes sense.
150 people in 2.5 years is not a famine. That to me is, they said 20,000 people were going to die in 150.
They're recently moving towards famine now. That's
Israel's feeding. I can show you that Israel is currently feeding about 10 million not 10 million, about 5 million meals a day to about 60 to 70% of Gaza's population. They have them in tents. They're talking, I just saw a New York Times article I was reading. They're talking about how the tent conditions aren't good enough and how they want to go back to their homes. Israel has them in a safe area away from Hamas. They're feeding them. They're giving them water. They're giving them shelter. They're giving them clothing. They're giving them showers. They are giving them internet.
That's look, the reason why I'm saying that seriously is because that's propaganda. So the problem with this is I'll give you a very obvious statement that I'm going to make right now. So when you have propaganda going the opposite way, it's silenced, it's shut down. They're sticking carrots up inmates' asses up there and everything else. Abuse gets shut down. It's a bombshell. But then anything else that's nice, oh no, we're actually helping them out. Oh yeah, let's let that press in. It's funny how it's lopsided and it's inverted, but usually in any democratic society, you're going to have media one way and the other media the other way. You'll notice that one side is shut down more than the other. That's what's happening here. So when you're talking about, no, they are helping out and all this, that is the media that they're allowing to go through. That's been probably cleared by some press secretary. That's been cleared by publication. That's been cleared by so many people and vetted. But meanwhile, New York Times just dropped a bombshell that's like, oh shit, now that guy has to fear for his life because he put out this information through an investigative analysis that happened. It's like, damn. So it's like, that's crazy when you talk about the other side and now you have to fear for your life. You have to try to go into witness protection and all this other shit. That's crazy how that happens, Tyler. That's what I'm saying.
It is. Well, the same thing happens over racism. There's still a pretty big left-wing cohesion of Jewish people in the United States, and they use left-wing cancel tactics. I'm not going to say they don't, but those that exist. But there is also a very large contingent of right-wing Israeli people that agree with all of your policies. I want to say it's about 40% of their voters at this point, 35 to 40. So you look at this group, and it's more split than the black vote. You could easily make these arguments about other demographics.
But Tyler, how is the AIPAC not somebody that's influencing a side of a party in doing all this? When you say this,
they are. What's wrong with that? They're American citizens giving American money to a lobby American government to make American policy decisions.
And when we talk about this, that in its origin, JFK was trying to get them to register as a foreign entity. And they were like, I don't know about that. Let's rebrand into AIPAC. Let's do that. And then when they did this, for some reason, nobody likes this, but every politician taking money loves this. So Massey is a good example. This is the most expensive primary race that we've ever seen. And why is this? Because Israeli funding, and you could say, well, no, they're U.S. citizens that are doing, proxies for Israel that are funding to try to go ahead and buy seats. This is crazy. The foreign influence and the occupation in Israel and the United States is wild. If you don't see this, I don't know what you don't see. This is crazy.
Because I read Citizens United, and I know that's a First Amendment protected freedom that we get through expression. And I know that these are American citizens doing exactly what they're allowed to with their own government. Almost every one of our allies has a U.S.-based, U.S. citizen-funded lobby inside of our country to say we should be allies with them. Some of the older ones, they don't really necessarily have a lot of money because they don't need to. But I guarantee, because of this, with Trump's policies with Europe, we're going to see an EU lobby once eventually spring up. But so the AIPAC thing being the origin, this origin argument, we hear this a lot. The police in the United States, the origin of them was to round up slaves because that was the law at the time. So the origin of that thing poisons the thing today, or these actions that happened in the past poison that thing today. They can never recover. They can never reform. They can never make guilt. This is the leftist argument that I don't think you're a leftist. I don't think you're doing it intentionally. I think you're taking a lot of arguments that existed for 30 years. You're hearing for the first time and not realizing these come from fucking literal communists. This is Norm Finkelstein shit from the 80s.
Hold on. I agree with that. But that also supports my point as to why I don't want them in our politics. We can't avoid this because obviously legally it's allowed. Because why are they not registering as a foreign entity? Let's go into this. AIPAC, I'm reading this from the overview that I got from Cambridge University Press. AIPAC was originally named the American Zionist Committee for Public Affairs. That was supposed to be registered as a foreign entity. What they did was rebrand themselves now into an organization now, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. What they did is in 1959 to expand its reach beyond strictly Zionist groups to go ahead and that's how infiltration's done. Hey, we're Americans. That's what we're doing right now. We're going to rebrand ourselves so that way we don't have to register, yet they're not ever going to do this. Let's be honest, Tyler. They're never going to register as a foreign entity because like you said, well, they're just American people. Yeah, well, look at their names. Zionist group. Committee for Public Affairs, now American Israel Public Affairs. All they're doing is taking the same entity and smoothing out the name so that we can go ahead and present this as proper propaganda. Hey, welcome us. You ever see the movie They Live and the guy puts on the shades? That's what's going on right now, bro. It's like, I put the shades on, but you're like, I don't want to do that because things are nice right now. I live in peace and solitude. It's crazy. That's all I'm saying.
So what you're saying is they had certain policies that made it so they had to register as a foreign agent. So they said, wow, that's unworkable. So they changed their name. They changed their policies because the name doesn't actually make you have to register as a foreign agent. It doesn't matter what.
No, it's not the name. It's the optics. That's what I'm referring to. The optics look that horrible, bro. It's so bad.
It would have to be the actions. The laws aren't written based on optics. It would have to be the actions of that particular group. So they rebranded, and that's what I'm saying. These actions aren't working. We're going to change course and do these actions. Now, 0% of AIPAC money comes from non-U.S. citizens. That to me is a U.S.-based PAC, and just because you disagree with their politics doesn't equal corruption. That's another left-wing argument that was used against the NRA. The NRA buys our politicians. That's why they won't do this great common sense gun reform. It's a no-brainer, says TYT. Think about it. It's just they own the politicians. That's why. This is a Cenk-Uygur argument that just because we see money means equals corruption. But again,
that's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying.
They don't actually buy seats. They don't actually, and also Thomas Massey just lost about an hour ago.
I know.
They don't actually buy seats.
Look, if you're throwing money if you're throwing how much money was in this, I forgot. If somebody could look this up, the money they threw everything. They emptied the monetary clip at this guy and unloaded everything because this guy was speaking out against Israel. Why else? And just think about that. That's extremely telling. By the way, I just want to make sure if my audio works on my network because everybody abandoned ship. I have 0 viewers right now because my audio, I'm looking at my chat. They're saying, well, no, we couldn't hear you. You're muted on your end. And Oh, so crazy, man. Maybe it's because you understand like how I can think about a conspiracy theory can be happening on my end because my channel is on the anti-Israel side. Like I'm not making shit up. But anyways, here's the thing though, is that when we're talking about this, I loathe Cenk Uygur. I hate the guy. But here's the point though, a broken clock can be right twice a day. If we're talking about American sovereignty, I have another question for you. Aid and reciprocal value. America has given Israel over $100 billion in aid, vetoes, military support. In return, they've spied on us, which I've proven, attacked our ship, which you've agreed with, cozied up to China, which we can talk about that, dragged us into regional tensions that hurt our global reputation. And mind you, I don't care. As long as we have the global hegemony, that's good. At what point does ally stop meaning unconditional blank check, which I've met before, and start meaning mutual benefit, Tyler? When is this going to be mutual benefit? Do you ever foresee that happening here?
It's not mutual benefit. The U.S. greatly benefits significantly more than Israel. All we do is give them money.
Wait, what? Wait, how do we benefit more than Israel?
I've already explained that in multiple arguments. The U.S. hegemony makes it better. Yes. Well, so the U.S. dollar on the world stage, you understand how SWIFT works when people buy from the U.S., they do it in the U.S. currency when they trade with the U.S. So that U.S. currency, either they have to go to a money dealer and take a massive cut.
That's why we stopped the other currency that Cuba was trying to do and everything else. I understand it.
Yeah. So the money comes back, and that basically we're siphoning investment off of other nations. A small part of their economic growth now comes back to us. That hegemony needs to have these nations in these crucial areas to make sure that global trade continues. That is what keeps America ahead of every other nation. That's what keeps us extremely rich compared to everybody else. And Israel is an important component in that. And I've asked like 4 times, what other nation in the region is more humane and more equipped to handle that strait? Israel could take out any nation more humane than Israel. I'm saying take Israel's standard and find me one that's more humane. I'm not saying Israel's humane or not. I'm just saying where you see them right now, find me a nation in that region that's more humane. There isn't
none of the nations, mind you, both of them, I would put Lebanon, Iran, and Israel on the same accord. The reason why I'd say that is because both of them are committing human rights violations. Both of them, like if you ever say, hey, Americans, will we ever accept the same standard that we allow passed for them? You would never say, yeah, that's okay. So consistent, mind you, my argument all across the board, I would say no to all of them. I'm not trying to make an argument for who's better or worse. What I'm trying to do is say they are not an ally. What we can do, and I'll offer an olive branch in this debate, Tyler. I would say and offer a parlay, and I'd probably be like, you know what, Tyler, we'll go ahead and be nice to them, or let's say kind, because I don't like the word nice. We'll be kind to them, but we don't trust them. If you need something, we're going to have to make sure that this is vetted. We have to make sure because you stabbed us in the back, created false flags, killed American soldiers on the U.S. Liberty, and done more than this through the Levant affair. And even, I actually have more to this as well, too, that I can break down. And then you're also getting tech from China, using that to go ahead and siphon information from us. That's currently happening right now with China, which is wild, by the way, because they're using tech from China and also using this is like a resource, which is wild. Like, that's what I would say. I would say not to trust Israel, not to call them allies, because I don't truly think they are. And you have this answer to me. You'll say, well, no, we're getting, because you contradicted yourself when you say we're benefiting more than Israel. But then when I asked you at the beginning of this debate, is it lopsided? And then you say, yeah, it's extremely lopsided. How can you then, and I'll ask you a question, how can you call it lopsided and then say that we are benefiting more than Israel, but then admit that they need us more?
They don't need us. They need us more because we have the best. We have the lead. Every nation needs us. They need us the same way every nation needs the United States technological advancements to not fall behind. Look at what happened to Cuba when we stopped trading with them for a couple decades. They're still stuck in the 60s. Every nation needs us more than we need them.
I would agree. I would actually agree, Tyler. I would say that a parasite needs a host more. That would be awesome. But do we need Israel just the same?
We need a region in that area of the world to oversee 3 of the most important waterways and arguably the #1 most important resource to humanity. Both of those things are right there in that region, and there's nobody more militarily equipped or more morally equipped than Israel. Even if you think Israel's bad, they're still significantly better than all their neighbors. And even if you think no one could argue Israel's a military powerhouse. They destroyed Iran, who's 11 times their size. They could get anyone around them would get clapped by Israel.
With our help. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
well,
obviously.
we sell them the best weapons in the world. But
Course,
what happens actually?
Right.
What happens actually is they buy
Israel. Israel is not a powerhouse without us. So when you say Israel's a powerhouse, no, they're not. No, they're not. Without us, it's like saying, look, you know what? I'm a powerhouse, but my bodyguard's right here. But don't fuck with me. Like that doesn't make you the powerhouse. If your bodyguard is the reason why nobody else is gonna fuck with you. Like,
the reason why we picked them is because they were the powerhouse before we picked them. So we weren't close allies with Israel when they were first founded. It took a couple presidents for us to even acknowledge that they were a nation. Besides Woodrow Wilson, others skipped it. So the reason what happened is when they were formed, the UN voted them into existence 2 years after they made the Palestinian state Jordan. They voted, well, I'm just building my stepping stones. After that, 6 Arab nations moved in, attacked Israel, ignored the UN.
But I'll leave it to you guys if you want to keep the roll going.
Man, hey, you know what? I'll say this though. This was a fucking brawl. This is what I asked for. Like, and what's crazy though is I'll even do a virtual handshake with you. Man, you are a damn tough ass fucking opponent, and that's what I wanted. Somebody who can actually clap back and somebody who can actually fight. And that's what I like, man. I'm here for the arguments. I'm here for the debate. I'm here to actually try to understand your position by offering counters. And if I can do that, then I can sift through your position and maybe develop a better understanding. And I think that's why we're here to debate, not to like dominate and destroy and do all this, like this lingo debate bro terms that we're coming. Like, we're actually here to develop an understanding. Hopefully that Tyler's audience can see this and come away with a better understanding. Well, I see the points now. I can come up with my own conclusion from this. That's what I wanted to be, more or less.
I was planning on linking anyone interested in the chat, and you guys in particular. I have a 23-page Israel citation document if you wanted to fact check anything I said here, or look at the bevy of arguments we never got to, because it's prepared to argue against right-wing isolationists and leftists. So like I'm kind of in the center. I go attack both sides with this shit. So
I'll leave it to you as the debaters. Do you want another 30 minutes, or do you want to toss it to the chat to see if they want you guys to go for another 30 minutes?
You know, leave it up to the chat, because I got rounds in me, bro. Like, let's go. I'll leave it up to the chat, because I'm on the fence with this, because it's like, oh man, this is good. Like, I think this is probably one of the best debates I've had from my side, and saying, oh damn, there's an intellectual prowess on the other end. Finally, not your Menars and Sirkars. No offense, well, actually offense to them, because I'm critiquing their style and their competency.
Sirka's a fucking idiot. Sirka is like an autistic idiot.
Just being honest here, like, yeah, I'm addressing their competency level, but yeah, for sure. I think Tyler, I think you've hosted probably one of the best debates that I've done. You know, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've done debates on Swords of Reed. No knock a day. It's them. They have great platforms. But as far as opponents, yeah, S tier, I would say. Top tier, for sure.
Definitely. I've been enjoying it. I put the poll up. I believe it should be on the screen. It's through StreamYard. Type 1 in the chat for yes, 2 for no. Should we continue for 30 minutes? And then, what else was I going to say? Oh, Tyler, if you wanted to send me that link, I can post it in the description. If you wanted to DM it to me.
Oh, it's a Google Doc with about 23 pages of my paragraphs and citations after. So I will give it to you, but can we wait till after the debate's over to link it?
Sure.
Seeing a lot of ones so far.
The ones are, yay, let's continue this brawl, which it was a brawl, by the way.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it.
It's a good brawl, because here's the thing, though. There's very few opponents that I run into that are really competent in debate, and I would say intermediate. I would still call myself a D-level debater. I always lead with that. It's not that I'm trying to virtue signal and say that I'm humble. It's just that I know I'm not the best, bro, but I'm trying to be the best. In order for me to get better, like, I need to face opponents like Tyler. And I've seen him on Grid One's channel. And when I seen him moderate debates, he gave me a great compliment, mind you, before the whole Grok debacle that happened, which it's a liberal leftist platform tool that people don't use it. It actually ruined me more than anything else. But I think that when I just do plain debates and just go off of like the information I have and note taking, I don't think I'm half bad. And I think Tyler agrees with that. Maybe.
Well, gentlemen, I think the ones have it. If you guys want to do another 30 minutes, I'll start.
Yeah, for sure, man. I set aside time from this today, and I think that you have a heart out, Tyler. You've also agreed with that. As long as we're not going to encroach that, we're fine. So, Tyler, since we're going to continue, here's the thing, though. I brought up AIPAC before. While we're continuing with this, if Israel is such a trustworthy and beneficial ally to America, why does its primary lobbying arm, AIPAC, refuse to register as a foreign agent under FARA, while pouring tens of millions of dollars, including over $9 million directly in the record-shattering most expensive House primary that went on right now, which proves that it isn't the power of the electorate. It isn't the power of the citizenry. It's just the power of the dollar from Israel influence to defeat an American congressman for daring to criticize a limited U.S. aid and putting American interests first. How is the foreign aligned group effectively occupying and buying our elections compatible with the genuine alliance rather than undue influencing our own democracy? Can you tell me how?
Yes. So kind of I was alluding at earlier is this is not a wing of Israel. This is U.S. citizens using U.S. dollars to practice First Amendment protected U.S. expression. This is discussed in Citizens United v. Clinton, I think it was, where they went after Hillary Clinton with a documentary and she sued them and she lost around free speech grounds. You expressing yourself through your donations to a politician is the heart of the First Amendment. It's part of our political process. Hold on. I got you got a big question there. So with Thomas Massey lost. Thomas Massey raised $15 million against $23 million. He had many more big money donors.
Israelis big influence. Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, Massey had more large donors, like billionaires and shit, donating to him, where the opponent had a lot more smaller donors, because that's what AIPAC is. AIPAC is millions of U.S. citizens putting their money up, just like the NRA. And to say that just because they put their money behind the candidate that doesn't openly vote against anti-Semitic punishments in the House. I can't remember what it's called. Censure. When you censure, they try to censure left-wingers for making anti-Semitic statements, and he voted against them. That sends a message to Jewish voters like, wow, what the fuck? This guy isn't going to side with us against this fucking crazy Somali woman that's like yelling like 9/11 wasn't that big of a deal and shit.
Hold on. The problem with your statement that you're saying is like anybody speaking out against Israelis' corruption, which has happened, whether or not we deny this or not, like the bombshell NY Post report that came out, and along more, right? We're not even going to listen to the allegations that have happened because they're a pristine, halo over their head and it can do no wrong. The problem with this is like, and I still want an answer to the question, why are they not registering as a foreign agent, even though you say, well, no, it's just random money? Do you think that by chance, that by their name, the acronym, what they said, they're not associated with Israel or influenced by Israel at all?
No, they could side with Israel. That's their right as American citizens. That's how it always worked. It's American citizens. Why would they register as a foreign agent if it's American citizens advocating their own government to be allies with another country? Why is that bad?
So you're saying that they're not influenced by, AIPAC is not influenced by Israel at all?
I didn't say that. I said they could absolutely be influenced by Israel.
You just said that. You said no, absolutely not. And then you went on your. Yeah. Now you're saying they could be.
Yeah. And so if Israel says this is our policy moving forward, that is influencing AIPAC to be pro that policy generally if they're pro-Israel. So that would change their lobbying efforts. I don't see why this is like a controversial thing. They are American citizens using their American tax dollars with their First Amendment protected freedom of expression to tell their politicians to do something that they want them to do, just like any other person talking to their congressman. It's perfectly fine. You keep saying these words like I'm supposed to be scared of influence. No, influence is perfectly fine.
Okay, let's say that you had another version of AIPAC, but they were Islam, right? Let's say that they were MPAC or something else like this, right? And MPAC was just or MISL, right? Muslim Influential League of Men, right? Muslim, right? Let's say Muslim popped up, but then I said, you know what? I'm going to take Tyler's position. I think he's right, even though by name, they're representing Islam, Muslim interest, and there are a lot of people that support Iran there, right? but they're a bunch of U.S. citizens. I can't say, well, no, they're not, in influence or infiltration and not occupying American soil as far as like trying to buy seats or anything like that. This is what this sounds like. When you take this thing and you take AIPAC before it was AIPAC, this is all Zionism, right? Zionist groups to building a broader support amongst Americans. And especially with our elections, if we take this and invert it to like a Muslim occupation and do this and rebrand them, like, I don't think we'd be having this debate. You'd say, no, hell no, because by their origins, the onset was Islam and Muslim and then Iran and all this other stuff. And you say, well, they could be, especially with Iran, even though in their origin in beginnings, that's how it started. Well, now it's just U.S. citizens taking money and funneling into politics. What could be the wrong with this? That's what this looks like right now, which is crazy.
That's what that group does exist. They're called CARE. They've existed for decades in the United States, and I absolutely defend their right to exist, even if they are a bunch of crazy leftists. This is the group responsible for inventing the term Islamophobia close to the end. I think it was after 9/11, but don't quote me on that. They do exist. It's perfectly fine. I can give you other nations and demographics of people that also have lobbying groups inside the United States, because the United States has populations of every world's government, every world's people, every ethnicity living inside of it. When they become American citizens, it's their right to turn around and tell their government, hey, we want you to be allies with these people. If we bring in, and I know they don't exist, but let's say we bring in 100 million Somalis and they become American citizens, they're going to turn around and tell our government, you should be allies with Somalia, because that becomes their First Amendment protected right as soon as they become citizens.
I can understand that. Well, I just looked this up on Google, and Google's very funny, though. I said, come up with a hypothetical name for a Muslim version of AIPAC. They have AMPAC, American, and I want you to listen to this right now. And tell me how this sounds. The optics are horrible on your end when you talk about AIPAC and what the name stands for. This would be the American equivalent, American Muslim Public Affairs Council. But it's just a civil rights group of Americans. And then not to mention this, but USMIC, United States Muslim Interest Committee, which is a democratically elected committee that we have. It's a parallel, right? United States Muslim American Advocates. We can go on. American Muslim Committee for Public Affairs. But hey, hold on. It's just a group of American citizens that are donating a ton of money. But don't ever speak against Islam. Don't ever speak against Iran. That's literally what's happening right here. And that's not a leftist argument. That's what is happening.
It's kind of funny, because if you drop the American off of that and just say Muslim Public Affairs Council, that actually exists. That's a real name for one of them. So it really exists. And guess what? They get about 10 times the money that AIPAC gets in the political cycle, because Muslims outnumber Jews significantly in the United States, since they only make up 2% of our population.
I can agree with that. But however,
they have much richer nations backing them as well.
But here's the problem, though. The funny thing about this argument you're bringing up is like they outnumber us and all this. We don't see the influence in people being publicly, outwardly open and brazen about this, as far as like the Muslim version of this, and saying, oh, well, this candidate is moving with MPAC going in through the Congress electorate and being voted in. Well, the money is going towards the seat, and we have to run against the candidate, because if they say anything towards Islam, we're not seeing that. Right, on the major scale, maybe New York, whatever. There's kind of speculation about Mondami, which I don't like. But in reference to this, like with the Massey situation, that's what is happening right now. We have a congressman that's saying, hey, listen, I'm against this. They need to register as a foreign entity regardless, because the support and aid is influencing Israel. This whole example exists for a reason. The Massey running and losing today was an example of American voices being drowned out by Israel influence. That's really what happened today. And Massey losing was like inevitable, because guess what's going to happen? We're more Zionist first before American first. And I think that that's an example of where we are right now, which is crazy.
It's funny that you say that doesn't happen on the world stage, because I remember a president named Barack Hussein Obama that had that exact same thing happen to him for 8 years on the Muslim side. They talked about how he was getting money from CARE. They talked about how his old rabbi from the church was anti-Israel. They talked about a speech he gave at some Palestinian conference where he said some pretty egregious shit. And then the LA Times, this shit's crazy. The LA Times bought the tape to that speech and buried it before presidential election so that people could not see Obama's exact words on the conflict. Still to this day, it hasn't been leaked yet. That's fucking crazy that shit happened.
But I agree with you. But when you take money and you siphon it through people's pockets and things like this, the very influence changes the nature of the seats that we get elected. And it's like, how much of a voice do we have in the power of our voices when really you can just be bought out? That's crazy. The person that won, and I guarantee this. Matter of fact, I'll even ask you a question just for funsies here. What are the stances and the policies that Massey's running mate has uttered? Do you know of any of them?
That is not my state. I didn't follow that race at all.
Here's the thing, though. Nobody does, but I can cite you everything that Massey stated. What they did was they took this guy and they said, we got to find somebody to shut down this Israeli person. That's this anti-Israeli person against their policies, their interests and things like this. We got to find somebody to shut him down. If you ask anybody out there about his opponent, his policy, they don't know jack shit about that. And the reason why is because you know that they just threw somebody in. They were like, well, we got to have somebody's got to fight him. And that's what happened, man.
Yeah, but I can name about 400 members of the House and say, what are their policies? And you wouldn't know them. That's good. That's a good thing that a House member in the United States House is representing his district. They know his policies. They're the ones voting for him. We don't know his policies because he's not trying to be a national figure like Massey is. That's an easy argument when you go in and say, look at this guy. He's on the country stage arguing with the president. He's not here fighting for you people. And that's a fucking banger in a debate.
Do you understand why this became a national debate or a national debacle with the Massey? The reason why is because it's very polarizing when you say anything against Israel. When he said things like they should register as a foreign entity, matter of fact, we should stop the influence of AIPAC, all this other stuff. Mind you, a lot of this is anti-policy when it comes to Israel's occupation. And I'm going to call it an occupation because that's literally what this is, I believe. Anything speaking out against that is going to be very polarizing and anti, maybe even this administration to some regard. I'm still a Trump supporter, but I'm anti the Zionism that's infiltrated our society, our electorate, as far as the positions, the seats that are bought and everything else, the influence in the shutting down of free speech, the YouTube, I would say when we talk about these blasphemy laws that we have, because you'll see even atheists can say, well, if Christians get in power, they can't say anything towards God. But it's like, that's what happened during COVID. You couldn't even say that. We now have to say the stabby jabby. They had this. Atheists had this. So in the inverse, if you're an American first person and you say, you know what, I'm going to put America before Israel. Oh, shit, that's polarizing. Don't do that. Your channel might get shut down. There's a problem here. When I, as a YouTube content creator, and even you, speak out against them, you might get shadow banned. That's a very problem. The very premise of this debate, and the reason why I'm like, oh, shit, I don't know what's going to happen after this debate, is because that could very well be the thing that happens. If you speak against Iran, if you speak against America, and I'm going to go back to this point, you talk about free speech all the time, but it's like, no, you dare not speak against Israel because repercussions can happen, like the Thomas Massey thing. He spoke out against them, and guess what happened? They threw everything, unloaded the monetary financial clip against him in the kitchen sink. That's a crazy example for me to drop in front of you amongst the many others when it comes to speech, our ability to pursue justice in the American dream. Yeah, it's the Israeli dream here now. We're infiltrated by this occupation.
So again, you brought up Massey. I told you the numbers that were spent on that. It was 15 million to 23 million. Massey had more large money donors by a lot. That money that came in from AIPAC was individuals, a bunch of Americans using their First Amendment protected freedom to express themselves in order to vote for somebody they wanted, in order to endorse somebody they wanted. This was individual Americans not giving the maximum amount, not donating to a massive super PAC, giving just nickels and dimes to build this money up at a much higher rate. I think he had double the donors, but only $8 million less dollars out of about 40 million spent in the whole race. Like, it was just night and day how much small people came together. And this idea that we have to call U.S. citizens a foreign lobby because they're lobbying on behalf of a country you don't like is wild to me. That's
it's like... But hold on, it's not because I don't like them. It's not because I don't like them. Let me trust them. Well, yeah, it's the trust. It's not that I don't like them. It's because of and I'm glad you reframed that. The reason why I matter of fact, if I don't trust them, of course, I'm not going to like them. So let's go ahead and include that too, because you have to be able to trust somebody in order to like them. We can agree on that, right? So when I brought up the Levon affair, when I bring up the USS Liberty, when I bring up the infiltration of China, when they're talking about their tech and kind of like doing this exchange, when I bring up AIPAC's influence and the Thomas Massey thing that happened and everything else, what you do is say, well, the human rights violations, who cares? But if we do it, it's unacceptable. So when I talk about the shared values, and this points back to that, when I talk about the shared values, I don't hear the shared values. I'm still waiting for that throughout this whole debate. I've not heard a shared value. What is the matter of fact? Let's address it right now. That's the biggest elephant in the room right now. What are the shared values? Can you list them? And I'll name the unshared values. Let's do a comparison. Tell me what the shared values are that we share with Israel.
Okay, so the moral foundation of inalienable rights from a secular nation is pretty much compatible with their foundation. Let's start with that one. The moral principle behind the United States' entire backing, the inalienable rights laid out by Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, but let me stop you real quick, because what you're doing is giving me the definition of a shared value. What I'm asking for is the specific shared values from Israel to America. Where do we align? Where's the alignment?
What I'm saying. That's what the value is. The foundational moral principle. Yeah, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, property. The shared idea that our rights are inalienable from a God, and we are generally a secular nation, but we have inalienable rights that are granted to us from a higher power.
Oh, okay, they can say that, but can you point to example? Can you reference an example? Like, give me an example of this. Don't tell me what this is, because all this is like feel-good rhetoric. Like, yeah, they'll say the same thing too. Even if they're not really our allies, they're going to say this because it sounds good. But give me examples.
They have a Western democracy. They have a Blackstonian legal system, both origins in Europe. They're basically a European country in terms of the way they do their legal system as well. So, yeah, they have a Blackstonian legal system.
Yeah, that's not like a major. It's not a
big value.
Yeah, that's like, oh, we have the same system. It's like we have judges, they have lawyers. So it's like, okay, yeah, I understand apples to apples, but here's the thing, though.
Well, I leave that framework out
values. But the problem with this is when we talk about shared values, we're going to go along with this whole thing. And like I said, with the dogs graping the inmates, detainees and stuff, let's throw that out. The accusations levied against them, like, these are the not shared values. When I asked you in this debate, I said, well, hold on. If you take the human rights violations that they're possibly doing, and I'm being generous and charitable when I say possibly, because mind you, nobody's been charged yet or whatever else. This is just a bombshell report by the New York Times. These possible things, when I map this onto America and say, well, this is a value that's shared, you say, no, it doesn't fit. But then you also, in the same side of your mouth, you say, well, no, I don't care what they do. It doesn't matter. Well, hold on. You care when it comes to America values on our home soil and what we do. You just don't do it. You hand wave it away with them. There are other 5 examples during this debate. When I bring up a shared value, you're like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The false flag, it doesn't matter. I'm like, wait, hold on. But if we incite a national false flag thing, which 9/11 was big, right? This whole thing with I forgot what it was called, a quarter or something, the film that got put out. Anyways, people debunking this, everybody was invested. They were like, hell no. If we did this, we would riot against our government. We don't want this. But yet when another nation does this, it's just an anecdote. Go for talking anecdote. It's like you're doing this thing where it's like you're minimizing everything on their end that would be egregious as a shared value for us. But when they do this thing, it's like, it's demonstrably horrible. You can't map this on anything else if this was another nation and accept this. But Israel, hand wave away, unlimited free blank check for them to do this. That's crazy.
I gave you the structure of their moral code, which is life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and inalienable rights granted by God.
That doesn't tell me anything, though, Tyler.
That's a value. But what you gave me were the same exact examples of this thing that happened one time in the 70s, that we have a completely different government there now. It's not the same. All those people are dead and gone. They are a completely different group of people. They just have the same nation name. They've already apologized for this. We have no proof anything like this is going on again.
Ninth apology? Bro, this is crazy. Like, hold on. I would agree. You would agree with me, Tyler, in this debate that if we take the head of Iran out. They're going to replace it. It's like a damn near a 17-headed dragon. The same thing with Israel. So it doesn't say anything with saying, oh, well, they're dead and gone. They have a new government. Yeah, Iran, same thing. We could talk about North Korea. We could talk about anybody else. Kim Jong-un hasn't been in power forever. There was somebody else was his predecessor. So when we talk about this, it's like, let's throw that to the side because that doesn't matter, I think. But when we talk about the shared values, when I talk about the consistency of these big debacles, these really egregious things that we wouldn't let any other nation slide with doing, we somehow are okay with Israel doing this, with allowing spies, bombing our ships, creating false flag attacks and everything else. Are you going to say that we should have the same amount of trust, even if they do this? Like, that shouldn't matter. They're our allies. Are you okay with that? Saying that they're our allies? And
yes.
You trust
I've already answered this because, again, taking these situations, like you could take that. This is it's poisoned by the origin. There's no way for them to ever reform or apologize. It's poisoned by the origin. We can never trust it again. At the end of the day, these are completely different people. You could take examples of the United States doing bad things to its own people or to other countries, and you'd be like, oh, you're going to forgive the United States when it has a completely different president, completely different Congress, completely different Senate, and all the people that did that either went to jail or dead and gone. Like, it's just, to me, you're like saying Israel as a nation all agree, they've always ever agreed, and these people that did this thing in the 1950s, those are the exact same mindset of the people in power right now, and that gap has not been closed for me. You could take these examples that you keep bringing up, but these are not values. Values would be like individualism, freedom of speech, diversity, self-governance, things of that nature. Yes, those are what national values are.
But when you say the values, yeah, that's like the groundwork. That's the fundamental foundation. We say this when I say things like Christian values, like things like there's a consistency, right? But when I talk about incidents that go against this, the framework that you're talking about, when you create a false flag attack, when you send spies in, when you leak information and documents, when you siphon money and there's not a reciprocal exchange, to me, it's like, yeah, life and liberty gets restricted when any of this stuff, like what you're doing is you're saying, well, here's the framework. We just can't talk about anything else that the framework can be destroyed by. Like, that's really what you're saying right now.
It's the same point, though. You all the examples you've given me are like 20 people over 50 years, where I'm telling you, like a nation's values are like democracy, independence, individualism, something both the nations share. The legal system, something both nations share. I'm giving you national values of why
but hold on.
Nations want
when you
to be allies.
When you say individuals, like let's look at 9/11. Let's say that was just what, 7 individuals. Let's say that I go on a campaign. I say, you know what? It was just 7 individuals. It's not bad. They're not bad people because of the 7 individuals. Whenever I tell somebody 9/11 and I say 9/11 happened, 9/11 was really bad, this will go down in history because of 7 individuals created something that was demonstrably so bad that it changed our very structure in the way that we democratically vote, the way that we walk, the way that we make decisions. Matter of fact, remember a time before the airport when you didn't have to take your shoes off, when you could bring a water bottle in the airport? Guess what? That changed our whole infrastructure damn near, our internal infrastructure and the way that we operate as America because of 7 individuals. So when you say things like, it's just a few individuals, the Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam was just a few individuals. What this is just more minimization of this argument for why I don't think we should move forward with trusting Israel, because individuals, which is minimized. That's what you're doing, bro.
What was missing from your entire explanation there was the question I was answering, which was, what national values do we share with Israel? So I'm talking about national values.
No, I didn't say national.
All national values.
You're changing it. You're putting national in there. I said shared values.
Shared values between us and Israel. Israel's a nation. We're a nation, so I'm going with national values. And I named them.
But what you're doing, though, you're changing this. You're doing this thing where you're changing this. When I said shared values, I'm not saying national values. I'm saying, can you reference things like, okay, here's a good example of this that happened that we agree with, that everybody else says that this is morally not corrupt.
That would be a value, though. That would be an individual action. A value is something greater. Like you asked that. I'm answering your question like autistically literal. That's I think the disconnect here.
Yeah, but the really bad thing about this disconnect, I'm going to point out, is that like when I bring up these individuals, like the 7 that with 9/11, there may have been more, I would say, these people, these sleeper cells, whatever you want to call them, the 7 individuals that were outed, like we don't even have the full story on this. And the reason why when these 7 individuals, when we talk about this and shared values, the reason why we have to tie this in is because you actually have to point to something. You can't say, well, life, liberty, and the pursuit of success. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean when we talk about this? Well, when we talked about this, well, this is right. That's the framework. But I'm not talking about the framework. I'm talking about the values. When you talk about the American citizen and you go down the street, you would say, well, what's the values? They're not going to say, well, life, liberty, and this and that. Yeah, of course, that's obvious. We should accept that. That's a should. What is happening and what has happened is 7 individuals change the dynamics to where now I have to go to an airport. I can't bring this bottle of water. I have to take my shoes off because, did you say my mic's off?
5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
You're saying your mic's off on your channel though.
They are. So if anybody's on my channel, please go to Tyler's. And if you're going to do that, because Israel probably shut it down because proving my whole point.
It's like Relentless said he's got you your channel on the TV and me on the phone, so it's like the old Japanese movies where the
crazy.
We're getting multiple support. Thank you guys.
I appreciate the support. Thank you. So if you go over to Tyler's channel, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. If you don't do that, then you're not a legal citizen, and I would probably deport you from my channel if you don't support his channel and do this. Yeah, I hear you, the average debater. I hear you. Look, I know it happened, but this proves my point of the occupation of Israel that's happening right now through proxies that are American citizens. Like that literally proves my whole point when you put that up there. And that's the thing, though, is like, I think that if I was running and I was saying, well, I don't like Israel's influence over American politics, guess what would happen? They'd throw the kitchen sink at me too. And if I go out here and I'm on this debate talking about anti-Israel policy and things like that, my whole channel gets muted and people leave and there's this exodus that happens. It's like, bro, like we can talk about coincidences all night long, and I'll even throw that out. My channel being infiltrated and shut down by some proxy, whoever, like this is just tinfoil hat shit. But since we have a couple minutes left, the shared values that I'm looking for are examples. I can name examples, not the framework. I'll agree with you on the framework. I'll concede that. I concede the framework. Moving forward, if we talk about examples, these few examples change the whole society, the way that you function. The reason why I can't bring water bottles on airplanes, have to take my shoes off, are because of Islamist extremists and things. And then when we think about that, one day 9/11 has been memorialized in history, yet the Levant affair, USS Liberty, I can name a bunch of other events that happened, the leaked documents that have happened and all this, nothing, waved off. Nobody ever cares, gets brushed under the rug. Why is this, Tyler?
Well, okay, so go to your values point. Like, you're looking for an example to be like the paradigm of the value in specific. So like somebody that would do Islamic jihad with a plane, that wouldn't specifically be a value. What would be a value would be what was motivating them. And that's what kind of the point I'm trying to make is Israel is an independent nation that is a Western democracy that emphasizes on human rights the same way as the United States. We don't see Israelis blowing up planes on people or anything like that. Like
we do see that. What was the Levant affair, by the way? Can you describe what that was happening? A bombing? That was a false flag attack. The guy admitted. They took the guy and it's several people, and they've admitted, and the Israeli government punished this guy, said, you know what, we admit this, and there was an admission is, bombed, try to create a false flag event to influence U.S. and U.K. affairs. So when you say that, that's demonstrably false. It's crazy.
I know, but you're giving me, again, this single example and ignoring the other 80 years of history.
Yeah, but hold on.
Didn't happen.
Hold on. Without 90 years, we could omit so many years of history with, what was his name? Freaking the guy that was hiding in caves and shit. The
Osama.
Guy. Osama. Like, without 9/11, we could omit that. We'd say, whatever. But because of Al-Qaeda. Well, because of what Al-Qaeda, right? Because of one day, we memorialized a day in history because of this. All it takes is one day, several individuals I would say, in allegiance to a nation and ties to their admittance of doing this. Israel has admitted this through the Levant affair. They've not only admitted this, but they said, oh shit, my bad. Oh, they said that during the USS Liberty bombing too. Oh, they've also said this during the league. My bad gets to be truly less believable on the 7th time you say this. That's crazy. It has less meaning the more you say this. My bad. How many more my bads are we going to get from Israel?
That's the point I'm trying to make. Is you keep going the Lavon affair. How many people died from that besides the 2 people that commit suicide when they were in prison? 0.
Well, let's say that. Oh, hold on. How many people?
9/11.
But hold on. If 9/11, like let's say that we found out with 9/11 exact ties to who this went to. Like we said, not only this, but we have the exact location of Al Qaeda. We'll never do business with them again because it's changed our nation. The exact thing that's happened, like let's say we never found out through the Lavon affair what have happened. Do you think we'd be in the same place with Israel? We probably would be, but more so, with their hand up our ass even further. Like, because of that, a lot of people have developed a lot of public lack of interest in Israel and a lot of disdain because of that event. Yet that has been scrubbed and swept under the rug many times. The reason why I even asked you what the Lavon affair was, you were like, I don't know. Well, gee, why is that? Because that's been scrubbed and people don't want to talk about that shit.
That's a good question. I mean, it gets into one of our shared values. We believe in forgiveness.
That's time. I'll let average debater finish his thought, and then we'll do closing statements.
So I was going to say, as one of our shared values as nations that are founded under God with inalienable rights is forgiveness, and we forgave Israel for that one thing they did in the 70s.
All
right. I mean, if I cheat on my girlfriend for the 7th time, she better damn near forgive me. I'm just a baby daddy. I'm just a baby. Hey, I got 4 baby moms. It's fine. It's fine. What? All right, go ahead.
All right. Well, that brings our debate to a wrap, and we'll start with Marte for your closer, and then we'll go to Tyler for his.
Yeah, well, I thoroughly enjoyed that debate, actually. That was a pretty, average debate enjoyer turned me into a debate enjoyer again. I was beginning to load debates for a very long time because the stupidity of some of the opponents. I deserve better opponents, believe it or not. And I think that I got that today. I think that I got a staunch advocate for his position that dug his boots in the ground and actually defended his position pretty well, although I could say there's a bit of obfuscation on my end. My opinion, by the way. But moving forward with this, with me in my position, I was actually looking for shared values, as in like examples, a reference, right? Not the foundation, things like this, inalienable rights. Like you could say this all day if you want, but it's like when we talk about 9/11 and events like this, it's like, yeah, that's anti-inalienable rights because we don't have a right to bring water bottles on our plane after this. It's actually stripped more rights from us because when you say, oh, it's just a few individuals. Yeah, that was a few individuals. That's all that was. But it's like if we hand wave that away and say, well, it's just a few individuals, people would look at you like you got 3 heads on your shoulders. But that's okay for us to say that with Israel and everybody else and AIPAC's influence over our elections. Mind you, if you're in the chat, pay attention to Massey and his running mate in Kentucky that we see right now. That's an example of Israel's influence right now through AIPAC because this guy spoke out against Zionism and the fact that we don't want their influence here and they don't want to register as a foreign agent. I did ask my opponent, hey, can you tell me why they're not registering as a foreign agent? Don't get an answer from that. But anyways, he'll probably answer in his rebuttal to this. But moving forward with this again, in this debate, there's a lot of people that are called anti-Semitic just because they don't like the influence over our nation. We're muzzled, we're silenced unconditionally, which is crazy. They write a blank check and say Israel can do whatever they want. Yet when I bring up a demonstrable atrocity that Israel's done, just one event. Nothing ever happened. That's because we decided nothing will happen. That's because we turned the cheek for the 7th time, as I referenced the baby daddy thing. It's like, how many times am I going to go ahead and cheat on my girlfriend for her to say, well, it's okay? They would look at my girlfriend as like a big dummy. It's like, bro, you're getting used. This guy's fucking sleeping with all these other women on the side, and you're going to allow him to do this? It's just dick. That's all. Like, this is what this debate's turned into. We can't allow this to happen. Look, I'm a Christian first. And then I'm a pro-America first person right after that. Israel falls like somewhere along the lines of, I don't know, somewhere in there, but definitely not Israel first. And that's my stance, is that if I come out and say this, I get demonized. I get demonized on the public stage. My channel gets shadow banned. Things like that happen. There are repercussions. You cannot be an American and then advocate for America over Israel, because guess what? That's a big no-no. And yeah, people could say, oh, you're Jew-spurging all day long or whatever. But it's like, damn, what part does Christ play in this? Because we don't even have the same God. If you were to go over there, like, the brothers saying you get spit on and things like that, when Nick Fuentes was talking about this, yeah, that'll happen. So when we talk about shared values, go over there with your shared values and wear a cross on your neck and see if that happens. American Christian Zionist, see if that'll happen. See if you get accepted. Nope, you won't. So that's the shared values I'm talking about, is like examples, like that example there, amongst many others. When we go to congressmen and you ask them, are you America first? Oh, guess why they're not able to touch us? Because guess what's going to happen? They're going to lose funding, money. They're going to lose every matter of fact. They might have to go to witness protection because of the New York Times that happened, things like this. Look, I've said a lot here, but I will say this. This has been a thoroughly enjoyable debate here on Tyler's channel. So if you guys haven't subscribed, please hit the bell and the link in the description and subscribe and like the channel as well too. And I can see my time.
All right. Average debate. Tyler, whenever you're ready.
Okie dokie. All right. Gentlemen, this has been fantastic. Marte, this is a long time coming. I've been wanting to do it. Hopefully I'll see you guys at DebateCon if you're in Texas or around there that time. I'll be there 20 minutes away from my house. So Israel first is loaded. America first is pro-Israel, and that's what Trump said. Trump being the leader of the MAGA movement and the person that gave us the modern day, actually winning incarnation of America first. You cannot have America without strong allies, and Israel is one of the strongest. Instead, we got Hillary and Kamala Harris. That could have been the alternative. They were going to win. They were going to beat Jeb Bush, who you would have gotten without Trump. This is the reason why any of you even have a voice in politics right now. It's not just another neocon. So maybe, lean toward the guys, trust him a little bit, and go with what he's saying. That all being said, Hillary Clinton outspent Trump 3-1 in that election. Money doesn't buy elections. This is a leftist trope we constantly hear about. Everything's corrupt. I don't have to actually prove the corruption. I can just show, hey, look, money's going there. That means corruption exists. I don't think Marte is a leftist. I just think that he's using a lot of arguments that have been around a long time, and he doesn't know the origins of them. Leftists like a lot of these arguments. Israel bad because a couple people did things, especially the examples of 50 and 70 years ago. That means all Israelis must agree with those people that did this, even to this day, even after they've apologized. But it just doesn't add up. Donations equal corruption. We've heard this about all sorts of right-wing funding groups, AIPAC being my favorite example. Does AIPAC control your politicians to be anti-gun? No, but even if it did, so what? You're holding your fucking politicians accountable, which is your right as an American. War is bad. We should kind of hide away. We should just let the other people take over that important part. We should pull out. I asked him for an alternative to Israel. He said, none. Just cut loose. Cut the region loose. Let one of the most important regions of the world just fall into the hands of the enemy. Who gives a shit? No big deal. That would cause them to have control over the world economy and our prices to spike. A significant downgrade in the living standard of Americans. Origins of the nation is poison. This is another argument we heard. Israel did these bad things. They can never repent for them. They're poisoned by nature. They can never be forgiven. We have to hold them accountable no matter what. And the last one, campaign funding equals corruption. So these are leftist arguments. We've heard them for decades from left-wingers, and they're being used here. So the answer I wanted to give about a lot of that is one of our shared values in this Judeo-Christian alliance is forgiveness, especially for something that's happened 70 years ago. I know you don't like that one. I'm an atheist. The answer of AIPAC not being a foreign agent was addressed several times. This is a First Amendment protected right as laid out in Citizens United, which made it to the Supreme Court, but that's just AIPAC. At the end of the day, the anti-AIPAC people significantly dwarf the AIPAC spending 20-1. If it was about money, they would go the other way. And when I brought that up to Marte, what he said is, that is weird. It makes no sense. And I agree with you. It makes no sense at all. And that's why they're not doing it, because it's fucking wild. Maybe your politicians actually believe some of the things that they say. And it just so happens that half of the public does as well. 50% of people polled say they support some funding for Israel. The current levels of funding are too high for maybe like a third to half of them, but they still support some funding to Israel. 90% of them support Israel existing as a nation, which is Zionism. Zionism is as strong as ever, and half the nation still backs them. At the end of the day, our values are what I said, Western values. What Israel has in common with us, the United States, is a Western set of values. They have a fair Blackstonian legal system. They are an individualist, secular, liberal nation. They have democracies. They have all these things that make our nation the way it is as well. They are a secular Western nation. Like, they share the same value set nationally. So the double standard for Israel thing, this was also brought up in his closing. We see 30,000 deaths in a week from Iran against their own citizens, and that's somehow compared to an unproven story about SA from dogs in a prison and some security footage that was doctored about guys raping a chick behind a shield, which again was a fake video. Israel punishes their bad actors. I gave multiple examples of that. There is nothing too extreme for the other side, for the people that they're against. These people will lie at every chance they get to try to smear Israel. And I gave dozens of examples where they were caught lying about hundreds of their people dying. If they're willing to lie about 500 people dying in a hospital bombing that never happened, they're going to, of course, they're going to make up essay. That's a step down. It's fucking wild to think that you can take these people at their word with no proof. So again, saying a U.S. citizen using their 1A protected rights is somehow corrupt government to me is just, it sounds like TYT. It sounds exactly what TYT says. Free speech being shut down on the internet is probably the last thing I remember him addressing. You can maybe get shadow banned if you're a small channel and you say a Jewish conspiracy theory, but the largest channels on almost every form of social media are calling Zionist genociders. Hassan Piker is the #2 streamer on Twitch. Fucking Facebook's full of it. TikTok is absolutely jam-packed full of it. Your opposition gets banned off of TikTok. There's all sorts of social media that are dedicated to this shit where you can go on and have a great time. You'll fucking agree with people on TikTok about how Israel bad because that's all that's allowed there. It's a Chinese-backed program for the most part, even if it did recently switch hands. So I just think that all these arguments I brought up weren't challenged sufficiently. I think at the end of the day, I got the last word on them, and those were how I viewed them ending. It's up to your interpretation, and we're all just here for a good time, not a long time. So who gives a flying fuck who won? It was fun.
I do want to say this, though. I'm very anxious to see the poll and how this went. But when you talk about the free speech, just if I could just touch on this, Skosh, oy vey. There you go. That's about the modicum of support I'll show, by the way, there, my charitability in this debate. The investor group acquiring TikTok's U.S. operations, and I did look this up right now, is led by software giant Oracle and its billionaire co-founder Larry Ellison. Ellison, widely noted for a strong ideological financial support for Israel and the Israeli military. So when you say that, no, they're a secular nation, no, they're not. If you talk about their government and their leadership, they don't lean towards the secularism. If you go to Israel, you'll get spit on. Dare not wear a cross there. They're literally taking churches, bombing them, and creating massacres. And then the OnlyFans owner, the ex-owner, was supporting AIPAC so much. If you talk about OnlyFans, I'm like, yeah, degeneracy is supporting AIPAC, which is crazy. Jewish person too. So if you think about this, Hollywood, everybody else, we can wear the tinfoil hat, but I'm just like, there's an occupation here. And that's my whole point. I don't like it, and I don't think that we should support them because they've done atrocities against us in the past, like the Levine affair. No, a broken record here. Things like this, which never really get addressed. Like you said that, well, I've never addressed certain things with you. Well, these weren't really properly addressed. They were hand-waved. They were minimized. And actually, through a reduction, you moved on and started this and said, you know what? But what about the good that we're getting, which is like minuscule? When I bring up the demonstrable events that could have been the next 9/11, what we did as America is minimize that. Jewish nations minimize that too. The Jewish nation of Israel minimize that too. That's why we don't have the drama. That's why we get along, is because, you know what? Few people die. Another 9/11 wasn't created because we shut people up. We had them sign NDAs and we silenced people. This is what happens. So when you talk about the big creators on YouTube, things like this, yeah, they're too magnified, and they would create an optics nightmare if they went after them, because now we have people who are tech savvy and could tie resources and say, you know what, we got a hacker that found out that this ties to Israel through Hassan Piker. This is what happened. No smaller creator has this power to do this. So anybody else that's not Hassan Piker, they'll allow that to happen because it's like, damn, I don't want to get outed. But that's the problem here, is we're at a crux between a rock and a hard place now, where it's like, I'm going to go with 90% of America. So when you say Judeo-Christian, no, that's not it. Those two things don't mix at all. It's never mixed. And I'm pretty sure Tyler would even agree with me, because we don't even have the same God. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's the Jewish God that they allow you to worship. But no, I'll give a quick rebuttal to that. At the end of the day, what I meant by secular,
Christ is the Messiah. So
what I meant by, yeah, they let you add your own canon afterwards, but this is in God. When I was saying a secular nation, it's not that some individual spit on people; it's that their government allows other people to have the exact same rights, no matter what their religion are. They're an individualist secular nation, liberal nation. That's what that actually means. It's not that most of them aren't Jews, because they are. It's just they allow Arabs and Muslims to run for office. They hold 20% of seats.
Yeah, they're through legalism and through I would say government infrastructure and the rule. They have there's not a part that's like secular about that. I would say, I mean, they would tell you that, but all that is just lip service. That's it.
If the government allows it through legal practice, that means it's a secular nation. It doesn't matter what the individuals say about how they like it. That's
Then you could say that about any Islam nation, even though Islam by nature is a religion of law. That's
they
all
don't let non-Muslims run for government in Iran. You have to be a Muslim to run for government in Iran.
I'm just saying, like, if you think about this, it's no different. When you say you have to be such and such, it doesn't mean that they're going to remain in control and have the sovereign control of the nation and influence it and run it by this non-secular premise that they've always had. They're never going to stray from this. Matter of fact, if you talk about Netanyahu, like his statement, he said, one Israel life is worth 1,000 American lives. Crazy. Like, that points to a value that we don't even share at all.
I got a quick question for the grift. Did we hit the goal for fucking chat questions?
Not quite. We got 6.
Are you not fucking entertained?
I know, right?
Right. I let this go on for an extra 5 minutes after closing.
What do I gotta do? Do I gotta put both my fucking legs behind my head and suck my own dick to get you guys to cough up some money?
That is crazy. The asexual reference is wild, bro.
I'm just looking for an excuse. Give it to me. Come on.
I'm anti-degeneracy, so I'm going to let you go ham on your side. I'm just going to show that there's a division that's happening here on my side. So it's like we represent Christ over here. Yeah, you can go ahead and.
Very how we're doing on those poll numbers? Did it get answered? Everybody in chat get it?
I still got it going. There's some folks on Rumble I wanted to mention. If you guys wanted to participate in the poll, I did put it in the chat. But if you're not watching the chat on Rumble, make sure to jump over to the YouTube side and vote on the poll for tonight's winner. Who brought the best argument for their position in tonight's debate? It's really close. We got 16 votes right now. I'd like to see at least get to 20. So
if you can screenshot the outcome, if somebody out there can screenshot it to me and send it through Discord, that's fine, because I like to at least have a record of reference. I can't see anything on my end.
Yeah, I'll screenshot it for you when we close it out. We got
Good
some
stuff, man. I appreciate that.
Jumping over. There's some more votes coming in, so appreciate everybody for doing that. I know a lot of folks on the. I was thinking about doing the ones in the chat thing, but folks aren't as familiar with that new style of voting that they just implemented with StreamYard. So I just went with the old school method there on the YouTube side.
Nice. I appreciate Mr. B's illustrious mustache for moderating this debate. By the way, it was pretty distracting. I was like, "Damn, man, that's impressive, bro." One day, maybe.
The mustache.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's like a whole entity in itself. I think that should represent or register as a foreign entity. By the way,
I mean, if you don't know the Mr. B lore, I was born a mustache that grew into an old timey muscly man.
There you go, man.
Fucking Button said, "Do the legs thing." The $5 super chat, fucking Button. That's funny.
Pretty good debate, man. If you're not entertained by this, like, what kind of brain cells you got rubbing together, man? I think that this was my opinion, by the way, but I thought this was a good verbal form of fisticuffs that we had on their channel. I think so. Yeah. Tyler, did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, good time.
As an opponent.
Yeah, it's fun. I had a good time. You know, if the moderator doesn't have to get involved, that to me is a good one. You know, like there's no screaming, there's no destiny spurging.
I basically had no purpose here, so you guys were great.
Have you ever argued with a left winger online that you don't have to do that shit for?
Right.
Just throwing that out there.
So I do got one question for you guys from the super chats. Get Right With God, aka Just Me, asked, "Who's the bigger threat to America, Israel or Islam?"
That's a really multifaceted question. Tyler, if you don't mind, I'll answer this.
I got my own. Go. Yeah.
So, like, if we can omit, I don't think that Islam is a proxy for Israel. I think that that's bad. But I do think that would happen is if Islam came and they wanted to, some Islam proxy wanted to come and do some destruction, I don't think that Israel would step in and be like, hey, hold on, let us stop this. Well, because they've never once sent warriors or soldiers to Afghanistan, to where else? The Kuwait. They never sent soldiers. They never sent soldiers on our behalf. They're reluctant to do anything or fight on our behalf or stop any of this. So I think that they influence it by their inaction. So when you talk about the biggest threat, let me tell you what the biggest threat is. I think that it's multi-pronged. And I know this might not even answer your question. I think Israel's inaction, and then the Muslim occupation that's happening through immigration, everything else. We're being infiltrated on all fronts. So I don't think that Israel's an ally because they won't protect us at all. Like with the false flag attacks, from them not sending troops to defend us, or what are they doing besides being a dependent that we can't even write off on our taxes? That's crazy. If you had a child like this, you'd be like, no, you're a cuck, because you're basically supporting a child that gives you no benefit. What, feel good rhetoric? That's it? I don't know. That's my answer.
Oh, hands down, Islam. 65% of global terror deaths since 2010. 40% of all terrorist deaths to the United States since 1970. They are completely, hands down, the largest threat to our country. If they got nukes in their hands, they would easily blow us off the face of the map, where Israel has nukes and we've never even had to worry about that shit. 0 people have died from Israeli terror attacks, and they're currently trying to decouple from us because Democrats are trying to decouple from them. So I don't even see them as having ties with us long-term versus being a threat.
I think I'm not praising Saddam Hussein at all, but during the pre-American war that we had with them, like, their educational system was actually climbing up, their standards of education. They were pretty well fed. They were doing pretty well, things like this. They were actually doing pretty good. I think that in terms of Iran, I don't think they give a shit about the United States. I think the main reason why they give a shit about us is because we're bombing the shit out of these people. Of course they're going to be pissed. They issued a contract. What is it? Tyler, you know this. $56 million they put a hit on us. Alleged. I don't know if this is true or not. Like, that's because of the continued occupation. When they've actually interviewed people, boots on the ground in Iran, with reporters that came back alive somehow. They've literally had this on video. They're saying, you know what? I don't like the United States infiltrating and meddling with our elections, but I also don't like our government. Two things can be true. They don't like the way that things are run. A lot of people out there, but they don't like our involvement there. I think that if we back off, guess what would also basically subdue? Their vitriol towards the United States, their vitriol towards America. I say let the sand people fight. If you let the sand people fight, who gives a shit? Israel might even pull back and say, you know what? We don't got help. We're going to back off. And I think that things might even quell a little bit.
Hold on. Let's run with that. If you're watching the sand people fight and you're standing there and watching it, why aren't you going to put bets on one? Why don't you put bets, like that one's bigger and stronger and can fuck the other ones up? Let's throw some money on that one. Hell yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And then afterwards, you're like, hey, shit, maybe I should get my own dog, and train that motherfucker.
I'm glad you brought that up. So if I bet on dog fighting, which is illegal, does that make me betting on the dog better or worse? It's still bad no matter what. So I think that if we don't have a dog in the fight and watch from afar, that's not us being the detriment of our own nation. We've got enough of our problems. We have an infiltration that's happening right now. We have the AIPAC end results of the Massey election, things like this that are happening right now, the Israeli influence, and then Trump saying I'm an Israeli person here, but I'm just like, well, that's all Israeli first. Does America have a say in the deal? Do we have anything? Because last I checked, when we have somebody in Congress, when we vote for a senator, things like this, they're supposed to be our servants. Since when did it become the very inverse thing that's happening to where it's like, no, we work for them? It's supposed to be the other way around, but it's like, that's what AIPAC is doing. It's actually turning these people into celebrities when really, no, they're servants that we appointed. This is crazy. That's what's happening with our elections right now. Not saying that it's illegal or anything like that, but I'm just pointing to the bad thing in the room. And it's like, when we think about this moving forward, I'm anti-Israel's hands all over America. We hear about Hollywood and everything else, I'm not going conspiracy theory, but I'm just saying, like, Israel stabbed us in the back. so many freaking times, both people. So if you talk about both dogs in the fight, you better bet on one. We can choose none. That's my point.
Your dog might bite your hand, but you're already watching the fight go. As you said, you're sitting there watching the dog bite your hand every now and then. That's because it's a fighting dog. It's a fighting dog that you train for fighting. It might bite you. That means it's ready for the ring. You get that dog in there, you get you some money.
We're not training Israel, the parasite that's using us as a host. We're not training them at all to fight for us. They're doing this on their own accord. If Israel was like, no, we need you in this fight or whatever, we wouldn't even be there. Matter of fact, I think that we wouldn't be there. It's because of their need and want and them being a victim class and doing all this that we're there. That's the reason why I think that if we pull out, I think that this would inevitably happen. Israel would be like, damn, we don't have the support. You know, it's not even worth us fighting. Let's just stop. It's really a religious war. That's really what it is. It's not about money or anything else like this. All of this, if you ask anybody on the street, anybody in the government, it's because they're bastards. They should die. Their kids should get their heads chopped off, whatever. But the same rhetoric's on the other side. We should not have a dog in the fight at all. I go back to the same point, and that's the point I'm making. If the dog bites you, why are we in a position to let the dog bite you in the first place? That's crazy. Don't have any dogs in the fight. Don't participate in this. Let the Sand people fight. that's my point.
That's funny. I will say, just me also sent a super chat on Rumble. Says, this was a great debate, gentlemen. Thank you for your preparations and your good faith arguments. And then she also said, can we get both gentlemen to commit to do a new debate regarding all foreign intervention aid, not just Israel?
A nude?
A nude.
Oh, yeah, I heard that too. I think your pronunciation is, a little bit kind of funny there.
You might have put down a bigger super chat.
Yeah,
Right,
did they pay?
right.
Did you get influenced to say that? By the way, was there like a outside degen influence?
No.
Tie the money to the
Well,
problem here.
I mean, if you gentlemen want to debate again, I'm always down to do another one.
Yeah. Tyler, you know what? I'm down to do another debate against you. It's fine. It's actually fun. This is good prepping and studying for this, writing all these notes and shit down. It's I liked it because it was kind of challenging and it wasn't like me stomping a mud hole in my opponent. I like it. It's good. I got good pushback. Good shit.
Yeah, you did I've done this debate probably 24 times now. I broke Prime Kai. I broke his brain. By the second half of the debate, he couldn't stop screaming about how I'm a liar and a piece of shit, and I support genocide. And well, I just completely destroyed it. So yeah, like you held your own. Like I have no, like this is one of my main go-tos. It might not be that for you. So like you're kind of walking into like something I've been put all. I sent you that document. Once you start going through it, you see how much fucking work I put into this shit, man. Like this is my.
I like it.
Yeah, this is my top argument. So we didn't even like broach a lot of it because I prepped a lot of it for leftists. They're the ones that really hate Israel right now, like on a larger scale. So I'm used to arguing more with them.
I really loathe the fact that you kind of put me adjacent to being a leftist through suggestion. I really loathe that. And I hate that part of you, Tyler, not you as a person, because I'm a Christian. I can't hate people, but I hate the fact that you put me adjacent to a leftist. I really loathe that.
It's part of the framing. I do it when I did when I was on the Crucible arguing against Grid with this. I basically made the argument like you're straying from Trump to go side with the Democrats because when you put your opponent in that position, it's like, fuck, I kind of am on this, and I got to really stand on my principles and emphasize that. But shit, it hurts. It really does. It's a good, and I've been using it since.
Yeah, but it's funny because I don't get triggered. I don't get pissed. The only time I got pissed was when what was that dumbass's name? The guy with the hair that looks like a Down syndrome Tom Selleck. He's in the panel verse. But anyways, that Dusty, yeah. Anyways, he's the only person that got under my skin, and that got personal. But other than that, it's impossible to trigger me. It's hard to, especially when I'm trying to be on a fact-finding mission here. And that's truly why I'm here, man. And I'd love to do another debate with you. But let me ask you, side note, aside from this debate and everything else like this, 1 out of 10, how was I as an opponent? Just curious minds wanting to know because I can't read your mind.
Well, you're following Rob Noir right now in the exact same debate. I used pretty much my same notes for him. So
major compliment, by the way, but go ahead.
You're following Rob, and Rob did about the best anyone's ever done against me on this, partially because, I've given this document 2 years old at this point. So I'd say if Rob is that 9, maybe not the perfect, he did a great job. I'd give you a 7, 6, 7.
Okay, so
6, 7.
Yes, 7.
Debating. You're not going to call me a 10. You're not going to rate me on Brian's whatever. You're going to call me a 7. Hey, you know what? I can't.
Yeah.
You know, that's realistic.
Rob wasn't a 10.
Call me a 7, you guys. Just letting you guys know. It's like,
Rob wasn't a 10 either. Rob did he did a bang. I recommend people watch it. It was on Speakeasy's channel. Fuck, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago in the NOR prep debates.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Crazy during my debate prep. I didn't even look. You know what? I approached this debate without studying you as an opponent. I approached this because I wanted to go in with just my side, and I wanted to get shocked and awed by whatever else you were going to bring to the table because I really wanted something tough. Normally, I do go over to Minar's channel or Sirkar, whoever else, and then do some debate prep and whatever. But with you, I was like, you know what? In order to make this a little bit more tough, I'm not even going to study you. I'm just going to look at the debate and the prompt and bring my side and then say, I don't know what his position is, but I'm going to find out. And that's how I approach this debate.
Yeah. Well, again, if you want, you have all my entire argument at this point now. I haven't updated it in a couple of months, so it needs a little bit of a post-war updates. But
how about we do an embargo, an agreement on this? Like, I'll debate you on one of your prompts on this channel. But then you, because racism and all that stuff with, is my wheelhouse, we can do that. I'll do a debate on the prompt that you like, and then we'll do a debate that I like. That's in my wheelhouse.
Well, yeah, I kind of threw this one out there because I was already prepped for it. So, yeah, go for it. Throw it at me. I don't give a shit.
This wasn't in my wheelhouse at all. This is not something I do. I'm trying to get more into political debates, and this is kind of like my entry exam. But yeah, I thank you for meeting me halfway and throwing the olive branch out and accepting that on doing another debate. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Fucking when I go on Gibbs' channel, Gibbs has me take more right-wing positions than I normally hold just to kind of be that. Horseradish's channel, we do like a good faith debate like league. They have me do more right-wing arguments than I generally believe. So I can any major political faction, I can emulate what their belief set and their views are kind of supposed to be and argue for them. But
so what I hear, if I can steal man, what you were saying is you could be open to accepting a devil's advocate position. Is that what I heard?
I am the ultimate devil. I enjoy the fuck out of it.
Okay, cool. Because you see this Byzantine symbol behind me, we crushed the devil. So anyways, that's what we plan on doing. Anyways, with Warall, I know that L doesn't mean what it does. I like the fact that you have Luigi there, but it's a hint to tomorrow's Woke Autopsy podcast with our special mystery guest. But yeah, I appreciate this. We'll do another debate. And I saw Horseradish, who's also in War Debate. My first debate, just to let people know a preview, is against the guy who has never done a debate before. And I'm saying that feminism is bad for America. That's the prompt. Yeah, you're going to see a bloodbath. I'm just going to tell you. It's going to be a fun time seeing a bloodbath. And also, Kim, what's her name? The reporter person that debated Andrew Wilson. Kim's in this. And then Rex Jones, Alex Jones' son, is in World War Debate. I plan on winning this. So whoever's in my path, may God have mercy on your soul, because you're going to get treated like Minar and, be with the donkeys in the back. And that's where you're going to be, because you're not going to be in the winning circle with me. I'm just going to tell you, and it sounds really cocky for me to say this, but Tyler, you have been a very great adversary in this debate. And damn, you're fucking actually really tough, to be honest with you. So I'll give you your flowers right now. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm trying, man. It's a good fucking time. My channel is just a formality to have conversations like this. I just enjoy the shit out of it.
Yeah, I enjoy a good form of discourse. And thank you, Mr. B, for modding this. I believe that this was granted to you because of all your hard work in the background. I appreciate that. And Tyler, it's two Tylers. What the this is crazy.
I know.
Tyler L, the Tyler that holds the big ass L in this debate with the hat. I appreciate you hosting this debate and having me on, man. So
hey, I appreciate both you guys being flexible with the schedule. I know it's not easy with all of us living in different time zones. I think we literally span from East Coast to West Coast. So, I mean, or pretty much, at least time zone wise. So yeah, man, I appreciate you guys for coming on and being flexible and working with me and being responsive to the messages in Discord and stuff like that, for sure. And you guys are both welcome back anytime. If you have a debate you want to get done, I'll do my best to get it scheduled. I did have one more question for you guys that came in, if you got time. Which values, this was from just me as well, which values are more closely, and I'm trying to stall because I'm going to be honest with you, the poll is tied right now. So
I didn't expect to do that good on not my own territory.
right. So here's the question. Which values are more closely aligned with Christian values, Jewish values or Islamic values? And which values are more, or which values are an actual threat to Christians?
You want to go first or you want me to?
I'll let you go first because this is actually a really good question, by the way.
Okay, so I would say that Jewish values for the first part of the question are significantly more aligned. It took a couple of centuries for it to get to that point, but we're here now. And I'd say they're generally more aligned if you look at the way that there's only one Jewish state to judge, Jewish majority state to judge. But again, they have Western democratic values that line up with our country, and generally their religion, regardless of what you think about Israel, their religion in general believes a lot of what the same intentions behind the Bible as the Christians, where with Islam, there is written in prescriptions of aggression, of dishonesty, of bad things that are still followed to this day. Maybe in more secular Muslim nations, they're starting to fall off to some degree, but still most of them have laws that kind of treat women as second-class citizens. So I say just by the fact that Jewish people are in modern Western times and Islamic people seem to still be 100 years behind us, that they are the bigger threat generally.
Okay, I'll open by saying this. Do you know what goyim is? Do you know what a goy is?
Oh, they.
Right. How do Jews view goys?
Today or in?
No, according to their religion, if you ask anybody, does a goy have the same value as Jewish person?
So there is a controversial book that says that, but that is not a widespread belief in the religion today.
Well, the controversial book, most people, especially Westernized Christians, have actually bought into that, which is wild. I forgot what the Bible's called. It's a Bible that somebody wrote. It's weird that says we must support Israel and Judaism. I'll say this. I'll even concede that Islam is worse. But here's the thing, though. I would actually put them in the same box, and here's why. Well, Christ, according to them, is, boiling in hell in his own excrement, which is wild. But if you look over at Islam, I'm not saying that they're good at all. They acknowledge Christ exists. They acknowledge, okay, Christ is a good person. But if you go to the extreme side, both of them have extremists that are like, oh, he's not good. But when you get to the heart of the matter, both are bad. Because anything that's antithetical to Christ, because they want the Antichrist to come back. That's their Messiah, the Antichrist, not our Christ, because we believe that Christ is God. They don't believe this at all. Matter of fact, you're talking about literal people that killed Christ. It's like, well, I can't say that one is worse or bad, but if you're talking about actions by what has historically happened, Muslims, what are the Crusades? If we look at the Crusades, Muslims are really worse. But that's not by saying that, we should hold one not in the same box. I put them all in the same box and say that all these people are Protestants. They're all protesting against Christianity. That's what that is. But because somebody else who's Israel can say, well, we'll support that and we'll tolerate that, that's not acceptance. And that's just allowance. That's all that is. But if you're talking about worse, yeah, if we're going to go by the metrics, I'd say Islam for sure.
I'm pretty sure that what you're referencing is a misinterpretation of a religious practice in the Talmud, where they're essentially saying that goyim are equal to animals and that if you sacrifice them because they're not of the Jewish faith, it would mean virtually nothing. They're not saying that these people, it's one line in the passage. It's not something that was ever really taught.
But it may not be taught, but if you go down Israel, there's numerous videos on YouTube and everywhere else, just people asking random people across the street, what should happen to the goyim? You don't want to hear the answer on this. They don't view this. Like we could say, if you look back at the archaeological text and the historical text of this, you can say, well, that doesn't align with the views. Well, that's not the common consensus in Israel that we hear or see.
I'm pretty sure right now Israel has an approval rating of America 90% and Trump 90%.
Yeah,
They love us.
if they're parasites and we're the host, of course we're going to have a high approval rating because we want more money. We want more support, of course. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I do have to. My wife gave me the. I got to probably jet here in a second. Is
Is
there
the heart
anything-
out?
Yeah, she gave me it's time. Get up.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate you for hanging out, and
I support the covenant. So yeah,
real quick. Did we get a result on that poll?
we did get a final result. A few more votes came in after that last request, and Marte took it with a 52-48 score.
Narrow.
So very narrow. It was
Narrow
tied at
victory.
20 votes. It was 50-50 at 20 votes. 3 more came in.
Can you screenshot that and send that to me? Because
Yeah.
it's all hearsay unless I see it. Also, you know what? This was a fucking tough ass debate. The only person that's beat me in a poll, and I know we can't use polls, Destiny beat me narrowly. And then Mo Rebuttal. We got to do that debate. I think I dropped the ball several times. But other than that, this isn't me like doing my Liberty celebration lap. We need to run this debate back because I believe that Tyler, if we run this debate back and do the original prompt, this is going to be a bloody. This is going to be a bloody slugfest. To be honest with you, let's broaden the scope. I'll do this debate with you on the original prompt.
I lose so many arguments when I just go to Israel, like mineral trade and fucking how like depleting Russia because they have nukes, we can't attack them directly. There's so many good arguments that are on the table when we bring that in. So yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, we'll do that. And I mean, that would be to be honest with you, that'll be a devil's advocate position because actually I would say, no, we should fund people who would be our allies. But the reason why I moved to Israel is because I thought that was the original topic of the debate. But the reason why I'm accepting the next prompt is because you graciously were able to just say, you know what, let's do it. And because you're offering the olive branch, I'll offer the olive branch on the next debate on Tyler TV. Which is going to be a banger. You're going to want to pay attention to this debate and see this because trust me, this is going to be a fucking slugfest the way that this was tonight. So,
yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you guys both. Tyler, I know you got a roll, so I won't keep you any longer. Just thank you, man. Appreciate you. This was a fun one to be a part of, and I'm looking forward to the next one. You guys know where to reach me in Discord and stuff like that. So we'll get this next one scheduled.
I'll stay on for like 5 more minutes once he leaves. I'm not going to talk trash about you behind your back. I don't do that anyways.
I'm not worried about it. I got a lot of personality. If someone doesn't like me, it's probably well deserved.
I'll do that to your face. If I got any beef, I'll say, Tyler, you're a fucking scumbag or whatever to your face. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate debating an atheist on non-atheism. That's pretty fun.
My wife takes me to church every week. I go to a Roman Catholic church.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I vote, but I just pick slots or whatever. But it doesn't mean anything. It's like
I listen to the values and follow them. You know? Wouldn't you rather have somebody living by the values than not? It's it's a win. It's just not a big win.
Yeah, I have sex, but I don't bust. That's okay. I can imagine it.
All right,
Is it on that note?
Yeah, of course. I had to run them out somehow. It's like you use the degen thing against them, and they don't like it. It's like not funsies for them. But yeah, I appreciate it, man. How did you guys think that this debate went? Do you think it went well? Do you think it was entertaining?
Absolutely. I mean, I was smiling the whole time. You guys were killing it.